Chapter 401 Two Women's Thoughts. Just when Mommy was tangled, the three came to the ticket gate of the park's haunted house. Wow, Naruto, let's go to the haunted house. It's posted here saying that Sadako has appeared. Yanyi exclaimed excitedly, and couldn't help but grab Naruto's big hand and called out. What she likes most is to be with the person she likes in this thrilling scene, which is the greatest romance for her. Haunted house. It's not bad. Mammy's heart lit up slightly. This is also a good place. According to legend, this place is a must-play place for couples to flirt. Sure enough, Yanyi had that feeling for Naruto. Mommy thought sour in her heart, but she was not reconciled. How could Naruto be taken away by a little girl? You have to work hard to compete. At this time, Naruto saw that Mommy agreed, so he nodded. Then Yanyi happily ran to buy a ticket, and the 3 chapter tickets were brought over, and the 3 lined up to enter the haunted house. Once inside, there is a long dark corridor, and it is pitch black inside as if it is really entering the endless darkness. Yanyi and Mommy couldn't help but reach out and grab Naruto's arm. Naruto stood between the 2 women, looking at the scene in front of him with some boredom. With his eyesight, even if he couldn't use chakra at this time, the visibility of his eyes was still much better than that of ordinary people, even though it was very dark here, but in his eyes he can still see the layout here. In fact, this is just a long corridor. There are some large screens on both sides of the corridor, which are all in a black state at this time, and there are various props hanging on the ceiling of the corridor. Although these things are not clear in his eyes, they are clear at a glance. What's more, even if it is a real ghost, he will not be afraid at all. In the boredom, Naruto's only comfort in the middle of the 2 women was the special enjoyment brought to him by the 2 women's soft and tender bodies that were close to him at this time. No wonder this is a place frequented by many couples. In this kind of place, naturally timid girls are the easiest to lean on boys. At this moment, a low and gloomy musical sound suddenly sounded in the corridor, constantly circling around the ears of the 3 of them. Mommy and Yanyi were both nervous. Although they knew that the haunted house was fake, they couldn't help but be brought into a special realm by this dark environment and the music. Suddenly, when the 3 of them walked forward for about a minute, a faint green light suddenly flashed next to them, and it was fleeting. The 2 women quickly turned their heads, and the light disappeared long ago. At this moment, the sound of the music suddenly rose a few tunes, and at the same time, a cold wind blew over, accompanied by a faint light, and approached from the top of the 3 of them. What? The next moment, a skull with pale white light appeared in front of Naruto and the 3 of them. Yanyi and Mommy were both startled. Naruto's arms. Boom. There was a soft sound, and then the 2 women suddenly cried out in pain. It hurts. Woohoo. They covered their heads and screamed. It turned out that Mommy and Yanyi's movements were too consistent just now. When they both rushed towards Naruto, they accidentally bumped into each other's head. Naruto sweated a bit, stretched out his arms and wrapped his arms around the slender waists of the 2 of them, and said with a faint smile, "These are all fake, what are you afraid of? Seeing you all hitting your head with excitement, it's true." Who would have known that Yan Yesen would rush over too? In the darkness, she felt the warmth brought by Naruto's big hand around her waist, and Mommy secretly rejoiced. Yanyi, who was on the side, was pressed against her waist by Naruto's fiery palm, and her body suddenly trembled. She, who had never been so close to a boy, suddenly felt a little unsuitable for this feeling, but the fiery temperature, it burned her heart over and over again, making her unable to stop. No way. Am I developing too fast with Naruto like this? Although we are boyfriend and girlfriend, it is too embarrassing to hug each other like this. However, in the darkness, Yanyi did not leave Naruto's big hand, because in this darkness, she felt full of security, and even if more ghosts appeared, she would no longer be afraid. When he walked out of the haunted house with the 2 girls in his arms, Naruto was bored and wanted to fall asleep. The journey was too slow. Every time he encountered something scary, the 2 girls had to stop and hug his body. Naruto still enjoys it twice, but after more, he feels very tormented. On the one hand, he has no interest in this haunted house, but on the other hand, he has to be in physical contact with them again and again. With a strange agitation. Mommy and Yanyi thought it was very interesting. However, when the three of them walked out of the haunted house, when Naruto was still holding the two girls, some other tourists around noticed it. Seeing that Naruto was actually holding the two girls by himself, he immediately voted a strange look. At this time, the two women who were still immersed in the haunted house just now did not react. When they just recovered, they realized that they were still in Naruto's arms. Immediately, the two women both made a big Yuhi face, looked at each other and quickly left Naruto's arms. They were all embarrassed and angry. Isn't Naruto's girlfriend me? Why are you still hugging sister mommy? How could he do this? This is true. Yanyi's heart is full of mixed feelings. Could it be that sister mommy and Naruto have an intimate relationship that she doesn't know about? How good is this? Likewise, mommy was also full of jealousy, and sure enough, Naruto also hugged Yanyi. He is so beautiful, he hugged our two girls at once. And this also confirmed her thoughts. Yanyi must also like Naruto, but I don't know what Naruto thinks. No, you must win Naruto. You are the first to know Naruto. At this time, Naruto didn't know the complicated thoughts in the hearts of the two girls. He was used to hugging each other in the Hokage world. Although Zuiyu would be a little emotional and jealous, the other girls' ideas were still very open-minded. And the girls here, especially simple girls like Mommy and Yanyi, would definitely get jealous easily. Chapter 402 Kiss. 3 hours later. Each had a different mood, and the three finally had a good time. Of course, strictly speaking, it's only Mommy and Yanyi who are enjoying themselves. In addition to feeling the smell of gunpowder between the two women, Naruto is constantly accepting the various temptations of the two women. Just like now, when they are tired of playing, they are going to buy ice cream to eat, and after buying it, they keep licking and licking in front of Naruto, although Naruto can't figure out whether it is the two women who are deliberately seducing him. Woolen cloth. Or really don't know how lethal this is for men. The moon in the night sky was getting higher and higher, and the time was getting later and later, until it was almost 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, Yanyi finally proposed to go back. Seeing her reluctant look, Naruto thought it was cute, patted her shoulder with a smile, and said, "Go back quickly, if it's too late, your family will tell you." Yanyi nodded lightly when he heard the words, looked up at Naruto, then looked at Mommy, and said with some twist, "Naruto, I actually have a gift for you, I just want to. Would you mind giving it to you alone?" Naruto was slightly taken aback when he heard it, and looked at Mommy, and found that she was slightly pouting her mouth in dissatisfaction, and she couldn't help but have a big head. However, when he saw Yanyi's more eager and hopeful look at this time, he had to talk to Mommy, and after she nodded reluctantly, he walked with Yanyi to a street lamp not far away. Yanyi touched a carefully wrapped box from his bag and handed it to him. "Naruto, I wish you a happy birthday. This is my gift to you, you can only take it back and open it." Naruto smiled and stretched out his hand to take it. While his heart warmed, he couldn't help but reached out and pinched her delicate nose. "Thank you so much, Yanyi. I'll give you a present on your next birthday too." Such an intimate gesture. Yanyi's face turned Yuhi slightly, but the strange thing was that she no longer resisted this level of intimacy. Her face was full of anticipation. She looked at Naruto and said coquettishly, "Sure. Let's pull the hook." Quote. Naruto stretched out his little finger, hooked it with Yanyi's small and smooth finger, and pulled it slightly. After pulling, Yanyi's face showed a touch of Yuhi dizziness, slightly raised his head and looked at him obsessively, his soft lips parted lightly. "Naruto." Huh. Naruto looked down at her, only to see that her hands suddenly gently grabbed the clothes on Naruto's chest, and she leaned over quietly, and from the two charming pink Yuhi lips, spit out a faint scent. She seemed to be making a silent invitation. In this case, if Naruto didn't know what it meant, he could kill him. Bowing his head slightly, Naruto put his hands on her shoulders and slowly pressed towards her. At this moment, Mami's voice suddenly came from a distance. Hey! Naruto, why haven't you been well for so long? Have you received the gift? Mami's voice immediately dissipated the atmosphere that she had finally created. Yan Yi was stunned, and quickly fled away with a shy face. Naruto, bye, I'm going back. Yan Yi quickly left, stopped a car and headed home. Naruto smiled bitterly and could only walk towards Mami. At this time, Yan Yi, who got into the car, was pounding in his heart, and his face was even hotter. What a shame, how could you do such a bold act? Just now, I was actually asking Naruto for a kiss. This is so embarrassing, how can you do this? Well, I must not let my sister know when I go back. On Naruto's side, he has also returned home with Mami. Came over from the bed owner city, and was busy all day. Now I went out for a walk with Naruto. After being refreshed, Mami is very tired now. After finishing everything, she leaned on the soft watching TV with Naruto on the sofa. However, within a few minutes of watching, she felt that her eyelids were fighting and she was going to sleep. She was really tired, but she didn't want to miss the little bit of getting along with Naruto, so she kept going. Even if she was sleepy, she insisted on sitting on the sofa and chatting with Naruto, asking about him in school. Naruto chatted with her, and soon she leaned her head on Naruto's shoulder and fell asleep. Looking at her quiet little face when she was asleep, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Really, it is so stubborn and cute that you have to force yourself even when you are so tired. He gently hugged her back, hooked his arms, stretched into the bends of her legs, slowly picked her up, and walked towards her room. Putting her on the big soft bed, just as Naruto was about to leave, Mami suddenly stretched out a pair of jade arms around Naruto's neck, and whispered softly, Naruto. Naruto was stunned for a moment, looked at her suspiciously, and when she saw her beautiful eyes tightly closed, it turned out that she was talking in her sleep. Shaking his head and smiling, he gently pulled her arms apart and covered her with the quilt before Naruto left the room. Just when he arrived at the door, Mami murmured again, I like you so much. Naruto paused, looked back at her, and suddenly walked over and lowered his head to kiss her smooth and tender forehead. At this moment, Mami's pair of beautiful eyes suddenly scrambled apart. Just when Naruto bowed his head and kissed her, both of them couldn't help being stunned. An embarrassed expression immediately appeared on Naruto's face, but this time, he just wanted to kiss her, but he was actually seen. I don't know what Mami will think. However, after being stunned for a moment, Mami suddenly stretched out her arms and wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck with a look of joy. Yuhi giggled and said, Naruto, I saw it. Just now, you are kissing me. Ah, that's a good night kiss. Naruto hurriedly smiled with his eyes turned. Hee, is that so? Mami's sleepy eyes suddenly flashed a sly look, and the corner of her mouth tickled slightly. Then I'll send you a good night kiss too. Just as Naruto was about to speak, Mami suddenly came up, and a pair of soft lips suddenly pressed against Naruto's mouth. A delicate and gentle touch came, and Naruto's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 403 I Can't Help It. Naruto didn't expect that Mami was awake, and he also didn't expect that he would kiss her in a ghostly way. He would never have taken such initiative before. Although Mami was very kind to himself, the two of them simply didn't. Without confirming the relationship, Naruto himself was very puzzled by making such an action. Could it be that I really have no resistance to these beautiful and gentle girls around me because I haven't touched women for a long time? Maybe so. Anyway, Naruto can't control that much now. Because the fragrant, soft and delicious body fluid on Mami's lips was intertwined with her nose was blowing out a hot breath, fragrant and extravagant. Naruto unknowingly climbed onto her bed and pressed his body on Mami's body. Due to the sudden increase in Naruto's weight, Mami's bed suddenly sunk, and her whole body was embedded under Naruto. In his arms, he looked up at him with slightly open eyes in confusion. Her pair of pure white jade arms has also been tightly clinging to Naruto's neck, and her fragrant tongue stuck into Naruto's mouth, exploring jerky and enthusiastically. Naruto was suffocated, and while responding to her very skillfully, he couldn't help but stretch out his hand and press down on her bulging chest. Soft, smooth, delicate, gentle, Naruto hadn't felt this feeling for a long time. At this moment, he couldn't help it any longer. He didn't care whether mommy agreed or felt abrupt, and put a hand on her gently. Kneed on top. Mammy's delicate body trembled slightly, a greasy moan came out of her mouth. She glanced at Naruto, but she didn't object, and let him move around on her body. Gradually, Naruto was finally no longer satisfied with only being active outside. He quietly lifted up the shirt she was wearing outside with his hands, slid his fingers across her smooth belly, and took the behemoth with a yuhi-colored hood on his chest. Naruto, mommy called him softly, moved away from his lips, and giggled in his ear. You have to be sure, if you do things to me now, you will be responsible in the future. Naruto nodded heavily. How could he care about this at this time? The man who hasn't had meat for a long time can't bear it any longer. Woolen cloth. Then it's done. Naruto, don't go back. Mommy opened her heart with a smile, spread her arms on both sides, and exposed her body to Naruto. In front of him, the two tall mountains of flesh swayed in front of Naruto. Naruto only felt that the yuhi-colored hood was particularly unsightly at the moment, and he really wanted to tear it apart. Fortunately, Naruto managed to control his impatience, and reached behind her to gently untangle the hood for her. Suddenly, with a snap, the hood loosened, and the two mountains of meat were about to emerge. Immediately liberated, he stood up straight in anger, even bigger. Mommy was ashamed and Yuhi didn't dare to look at Naruto. At this moment, she was both excited and scared. She was able to do these intimate things with Naruto. She liked it very much from the bottom of her heart, but it was her own. For the first time, it has never been done before. Don't know what's going to happen after a while. What a shame. At the age of 20, it is still a place, and it will not take the initiative at all when encountering such a thing. However, Naruto had already removed her hood at this time, and pressed her hands directly on the two bulging meat mountains. It was real, delicate, soft and smooth. This infinitely soft touch and that full feeling made Naruto's hands were hot. So embarrassing. Mommy stretched out her hand to cover her forehead, and let out a soft cry. I don't know if it was because of excitement or some other reason. With a slight sweat on her forehead, she wiped the knotty strand of hair away. Sticking lightly, the beautiful eyes full of water light only slightly opened a gap, secretly and shyly looking at Naruto. Naruto smiled and praised, Mommy, your body is so beautiful. You cancel the family. People, how can you say it is so good? Mammy's heart is about to fly, in this situation, if it is not for her knowledge, otherwise she would have taken the initiative long ago. Got it for Naruto. I'm coming, Mommy. Naruto was no longer satisfied with the scenery in front of Mammy's chest. He smiled and slid his hand under her. With a slight pull between his legs, the pink trousers were pulled directly. After getting down, Naruto didn't look at it, and directly touched her two smooth white legs with his hands, but his hands were full of smooth and greasy liquid. Okay, it's so itchy. Mommy closed her legs tightly, and Naruto's fiery big hand suddenly touched her most mysterious area, and she couldn't help trembling all of a sudden. Her two long legs even more. It was constantly twisting, looking very impatient and scared. Seeing this scene, Naruto would continue with other things, and quickly took off his pants, straightening up the giant and pushing it against her Taniguchi. This fiery foreign object immediately made Mommy let out a soft snort and took a deep breath, but she didn't dare to spit it out. It was so big, so hard. Don't be nervous, Mommy. Naruto whispered in her ear, and when she was lost in this gentle tone, Naruto's body suddenly stiffened. Forehead. Mommy raised her head abruptly, her mouth opened slightly, her beautiful eyes widened, her delicate body clenched for a while, her jade arms grabbed the sheets all at once, and her whole body tensed up. Naruto was completely submerged. Since Mommy had already been flooded with water before, she only encountered a layer of obstacles when she entered, and directly penetrated her. Surrounded by her incomparably smooth and compact place, Naruto finally realized this long-lost feeling of love. So cool. Naruto pushed his head forward again, and went directly to her cervix. The stimulated Mammy's neck was thrown back fiercely, and there was a slight low-pitched breath in her throat. After a while, Mommy gradually got used to it, and Naruto started to move. It was very light and slow at first, and then gradually increased. Mommy Kochunin couldn't help but let out a coquettish cry. Ah, Naruto, it feels too strange. No way, Mommy yelled, and was slammed by Naruto, her body twisted violently. Chapter 404 Chakra is moving. The next morning, Naruto woke up and felt relieved. Suddenly, his spirit jolted violently, followed by an unspeakable ecstasy look on his face. Because, he found that the chakra in the body actually appeared a little loose. Among those chakras that seem to have solidified in the body, there is actually a trace of chakra flowing slowly. This long-lost feeling sent him into a sudden ecstasy. This is so surprising. Chakra, who has been exploring for a long time, suddenly unraveled a little at this moment. Although it is only a trace, the weak can almost be ignored, but this is already a big step for him. This is a substantial step. With this trace of chakra, he has the hope of a breakthrough, and the hope of continuing to study and explore. These days, although he has been working hard every day, he has never thought of giving up. However, after coming down from 1010, he has not made any progress. This is unique to him. Even if he first came to the Hokage world to practice chakra, practicing ninjutsu is also an improvement every day, and I have never had any way to do it like in the past few days. Therefore, this trace of chakra brings great hope to Naruto. Is this fate? Do not. Naruto never believed that fate was at fault. He must find out the reason why this can make the originally dead chakra move again. The mind slowly sank, and Naruto let this trace of chakra flow away in the body, and the mind also moved forward with this chakra. In his body, the chakra, which was originally unparalleled, was like some condensed solid blocks, attached to various cells and meridians of the body, and the only moving chakra seemed to be this 10,000. A trickle of still water is running constantly in it. However, when Naruto wanted to use this chakra to drive them, he found that it was not as simple as he thought. Those solidified chakras seemed to be suppressed by some force, and Naruto's current strength could not be stimulated and mobilized at all. But how did the chakra of this activity come about? Naruto couldn't help but fell into deep thought. At this time, Naruto suddenly felt that something was moving on his body. He recovered and opened his eyes and saw that Mommy was lying on his chest, quietly sticking out his tongue to lick the muscles in his chest. There was still a hint of sleepiness and tiredness on her face, and there was a lazy look in her beautiful eyes. Oh hey oh Naruto. Seeing Naruto open his eyes, Mommy raised her body slightly and said hello with a smile. The quilt on her body slid down gently, and her skin was suddenly white, and her skin was exposed to Naruto's eyes. Mommy was completely naked, and she was so tempted to die by Naruto last night that she couldn't help herself. Naruto, who was in a good mood, suddenly hugged her tender body, hugged her fiercely, kissed her face, and said with a smile, "Mommy, good morning. Does it still hurt there?" Mommy leaned in his arms happily, clinging to him, feeling his masculinity, and she was intoxicated. When Yan's face turned Yuhi slightly, and he gave him a coquettish look and said, "I didn't expect you to be so powerful when you are only 16 years old. I'm about to die. It seems that I can't live without it in the future. How about you?" Naruto laughed and reached out to her crotch. Mommy Wei gave him a ruthless look and said softly, "No way, Naruto, it's already swollen there. If you do it again, it will be broken." Naruto smiled lightly. "Don't think about it, I didn't say I want to do H with you." Then what are you doing? It's so cold. Mommy suddenly shuddered and looked at Naruto in surprise. Naruto smiled. Just now, he was using his chakra to perform nourishing treatment for Mommy. After dealing with Ten Tails and Madara, Naruto had nothing to do with Sakura Tsunade and the others to learn a little medical ninjutsu. Although he just learned it casually, it is far from the power of life, but in his spare time, it is also considered a medical ninjutsu. A pastime. At this time, I use this medical ninjutsu to give Mommy a medical treatment. However, this is only a trace of chakra, and it is estimated that it is not enough for a small vertical lift. At this time, it is almost not enough to use it in medical ninjutsu for a few seconds. After refining it for a while, the chakra that was used up immediately recovered, and Naruto couldn't help laughing bitterly. This chakra is too little, and it has only just recovered a little bit, and I still don't know how to increase this trace of chakra. Method, can't be used at all. And after Mommy felt the slight coolness, the temperature of Naruto's big hands became hot again. Her delicate body could not help twisting slightly, and she sat on him and said coquettishly, Naruto, you are too bad. You are only 16 years old. Desire and hope are so strong. Naruto was stunned for a moment, seeing that Mommy had actually sat up. Her upper body was completely exposed to the air, only to hear her say shyly, Naruto, if you really want it. I'm reluctant. I can give it to you once. Only once. After speaking, Mommy stretched out her hand and took the initiative to grasp Naruto's swollen large object, smiled lightly, frowned slightly, sat down gently, and completely wrapped Naruto inside. Naruto couldn't help but stretch out his hand to support her smooth waist, stiffen his body, and work again. As a result, of course, Mommy was so tender, she begged for mercy again and again, and sprayed it 3 times in a row, which made Naruto erupt as she wished. Satisfied, Naruto got out of bed, looked at Mommy who was still lying on the bed and was panting weakly, and smiled slightly. After taking a shower, he went downstairs to buy some breakfast. At this time, Mommy was still lying on the bed. Seeing that Naruto was actually taking breakfast for herself, she couldn't help showing a moved look on her face, and threw herself into his arms again. Keep warm. Today is Sunday. The two of them, who had nothing to do, enjoyed a long time at home, chatting, and being gentle. This made Mommy very satisfied, and she felt more and more reluctant to leave him. She was even thinking, how wonderful it would be if it was still Sunday. It's a pity that tomorrow is Monday, and I have to go back to the bed city to go to work. Hey, I really want to stay by Naruto's side. Mommy thought to herself. Chapter 405 Naughty Cinnamon. The day passed quickly, and when evening came, Mammy's parents called her and asked her to go home as soon as possible. Mommy had no choice but to reluctantly bid farewell to Naruto. Before leaving, the two kissed deeply. After Mommy left, Naruto sat down and meditated excitedly, cultivating the trace of chakra in his body. After a period of research, he found that this trace of chakra was not actually liberated from the solidified chakra in the body, but it was newly created by myself. And it brings a different nature. Compared with the original chakra of feng shui and soil, this trace of chakra has no changes in these attributes, but has a trace of yin and yang attributes. As early as he mastered the power of nature before, he had a very thorough understanding of the attributes of chakra, so he had a very clear understanding of what this chakra contained. Yin and yang changes. He knows that everything in the world is inseparable from yin and yang, and they have two completely different properties. What kind of connection does this have with his chakra? Naruto fell into deep thought. Perhaps, this has to allow myself to continue to explore. He exhaled softly. At this time, he noticed a small box on the table in front of him, which was the birthday present Yan Yi gave him yesterday. Yesterday, before she left, she told herself to take it home and open it, but after spending a whole day with Mommy, she forgot about it, which made him feel a little ashamed, and now he hastily brought it over and opened it up. The exquisite box packaging was torn open and opened layer by layer, only to see that there was actually a silver-colored mobile phone inside. There is a half-heart pattern on the lid of the phone. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and turned over the mobile phone box. On the box, he saw a picture, which happened to be another pink Yuhi-colored mobile phone that was paired with his own silver-colored mobile phone. Is this a couple's phone? There was a warm current in Naruto's heart. Yan Yi was too careful, and even bought a mobile phone for himself. It seems that he told her that he didn't have a mobile phone the day before yesterday, right? Unexpectedly, she actually spent money to buy one for herself. Naruto returned from the world of Hokage. It has been more than 10 years since he played this thing. Fortunately, he still remembers the usage of this thing. After pressing the power button, the phone has already turned on. After a while, the phone suddenly rang for a while, and Naruto was slightly taken aback. It seemed that the caller ID was Yan Yi. Unexpectedly, she called herself as soon as she turned on the phone. Naruto felt very surprised. After connecting, Yan Yi's gentle voice came from inside. Naruto, do you like this gift? Yeah, I like it. But it really cost you money. Naruto replied with a smile. It's alright, this is my birthday present for you. We can use this to keep in touch with each other in the future. What are you doing, heart? Yan Yi said halfway through with a smile, and suddenly came again there was a frolic, and she said in a panic, okay, Naruto, I won't tell you first, see you tomorrow. Well, see you tomorrow. Naruto said, smiled and hung up the phone. At this time, Yan Yi's house. Gui Xin was staying in her sister's room. Seeing her holding a mobile phone, she became very curious. She kept getting into her arms to grab her mobile phone. She said softly, sister. You're hiding a secret from me. Really, this phone is obviously a couple's phone. Is that Naruto your boyfriend? Tell me now. Yeah, there's no way. Gui Xin, hurry up and do your homework. Sister, I'm going to bed. Yan Yi pushed her and wanted to kick her out, but the mischievous Gui Xin didn't go away and went away with a smile. Grab her mobile phone. I'll be sleeping in my sister's room tonight. Hee, let me have a look, or be careful and I'll tell my parents. Ah, how can you be so bad, Gui Xin? You can't let them know about this kind of thing. I bought it with pocket money that I've saved for a long time. Yan Yi became anxious. Haha, sister, why are you nervous? I won't say anything. I'm going to scare you. Gui Xin saw her sister stunned for a moment, and suddenly snatched the phone away, and ran out of her sister's room with a huff. Hey, heart, give it back to me. Yan Yi rushed over to chase after his sister, but was stopped by his mother as soon as he arrived at the door. Yan Yi, why don't you sleep at night? Don't make trouble, go back to sleep, there will be class tomorrow. I see. Yan Yi was shy and squinted at Sime Millie-ja. Watching her keep making faces and sticking out her tongue at him, she couldn't help but get angry and laugh, so she had no choice but to go back to the room. In the evening, near midnight, Naruto was lying on the bed and sleeping, with his mobile phone on the cabinet by the bedside, when suddenly there was a vibration from the mobile phone. Naruto woke up suddenly, picked up the phone and saw a text message from Yan Yi. It's all this time, what's wrong with her sending a text message? Did something happen? Naruto woke up immediately, opened the text message, and it read, Brother Naruto, I can't sleep. I miss you, can you come out and accompany me? Naruto was stunned for a moment, then pressed the button and sent a text message back. Go to bed now, Yan Yi, can't we see you tomorrow? Besides, we have class tomorrow. After a while, the text message came again. But, people just miss you. Otherwise I won't be able to sleep. I'll be late tomorrow morning. Come over quickly. Naruto scratched his head, feeling a little strange. Yan Yi is very gentle and considerate, why is he so capricious this time? He hurriedly made a phone call to her, however, the bell rang a few times and was immediately hung up. Naruto frowned, what's going on? Called again, still no answer. The depressed Naruto had to send a text message to ask her why. After a while, the text message over there came back. I'm already at the station on Nanji Road North. Naruto, come here. Naruto was instantly depressed. What the hell is this girl doing? Why are you suddenly so capricious? Can't we meet tomorrow? Why do you want to meet now? Naruto was speechless, but worried that she, a girl, would be in danger outside so late, so she had to put on clothes and leave the room. Chapter 406 Physical Exam. Then, this night, Naruto came back very depressed, and made a decision in his heart that he must punish this wayward guy well tomorrow morning. How dare you make fun of yourself? Naruto, who didn't get home until 2 or 3 o'clock, was very puzzled. Yan Yi's character was very gentle and considerate, and he didn't have that kind of willful temper at all. And the most hateful thing is that she is still playing tricks on herself. When he arrived at his destination, there was no one there, only empty streets and street lights. Then, he thought that something had happened to Yan Yi, and hurriedly called, but he still didn't answer, and then Naruto realized that it was not good. Did he fall into the wrong hands? This made him anxious, and he quickly sent a text message to ask the reason. Then, after a text message came back, he was speechless when he saw it. Naruto, I'm sorry, I sent the wrong text message just now. You don't need to use it, go back quickly. The next day, Naruto got up early and only slept for a few hours a day, and there was no problem with his body at all. He soon got to the tram, and then saw Yan Yi. Just wanted to question her, and then went up to spank her a few times, but when Yan Yi saw himself, he immediately stood up and apologized to himself anxiously. Naruto, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. My cell phone last night taken by my naughty sister. She told me those things when she returned it to me this morning. I'm so sorry, Naruto. Naruto was stunned for a moment. Yan Yi, you said it was your sister who sent me a text message last night to let me out. Yeah, her name is Gui Shin. She's very naughty, I can't control her. I'm so sorry, Naruto, I must teach her a lesson today. Yan Yi kept apologizing. So that's what it is. That's alright, since it's just a prank by a child, forget it. Naruto sighed. Next time I'll teach her a lesson myself. Yan Yi couldn't help being stunned when he heard the words, and then he covered his mouth and smiled softly. Okay. This little sister is always making fun of me. I'll take her out then. Naruto, you have to give me a good training. Oh she. The two looked at each other and smiled, and the previous depression quickly disappeared. Moreover, Naruto has made progress in chakra, and he is in a good mood, so he will not care about this kind of thing at all. On the train, Makoto Ito, who was here together, looked at Naruto and Yan Yi talking and laughing, and a look of jealousy appeared on his face. In the classroom, as soon as Naruto came to the seat and sat down, the world turned his head and smiled at Naruto. Naruto-kun, did you have a happy birthday? Naruto smiled back. Not bad. Thank you for coming to celebrate my birthday. It's nothing, just give me a birthday in the future. The world glanced at Makoto Ito, who was sitting next to him, and giggled. Makoto Ito didn't respond, and he was still immersed in the depression of not being able to get Yan Yi. The world sighed slightly in his heart. Compared with the considerate and gentle Naruto, Ito-kun doesn't understand other people's feelings at all. At this time, the first class started. The world had to turn around and study seriously, and Naruto also entered a sleep state. In fact, he was slowly practicing chakra. The morning time was spent in this boring and busy, because the exam will be soon, so everyone is very serious. In the afternoon, it is time for the school-wide physical education class. It was the first time for Naruto to participate in a physical education class. The afternoon sun outside was warm, and the weather in early autumn was neither too cold nor too hot. It was just right. Everyone went to change their sports clothes and prepare for the physical education class. The boys wore short-sleeved shorts, while the girls wore short-sleeved uppers and a pair of briefs, revealing 2 white and tender thighs. I have to say that this physical education class is the most exciting time for the boys in the school, because at this time, everyone can go to other class venues in their spare time to secretly watch the girls they like, and watch them run and jump. The heart also jumped. Naruto followed the large army, slowly following behind. He was yawning lazily after taking a nap for a while. Assemble, line up. This physical education class is also an exam. The exam is still the 100-meter sprint, and there are 3 items: high jump and long jump. Under the command of the teacher, the class was divided into 2 groups, a boy group and a girl group. Take the exam separately. First the girls group, then the boys group. After the venue was set up, the physical education teacher gave an order and the exam started immediately. The boys gathered around the girls' exam venue and watched the girls' performance with wide eyes. Among them, the squad leader Shanna, Sayuanji World, and several other young and beautiful girls were the focus of the boys. When it was their turn, the boys' eyes all fell on them, some cheering, some whistling. Anyway, the atmosphere of the boys was all warm. Naruto leaned against the iron net in boredom, watching these activities that were boring and childish in his eyes. 100 meters. It doesn't take much effort to break the world record. High jump. I am afraid that twice the world record is not as good as myself. Jump. That's not to mention, in the Hokage world, I use the leap forward method to travel, and it is not a problem to jump down 100 meters. Even if the chakra in his own body cannot be used now, the honed body is far beyond the level of ordinary people in this world. Therefore, in his eyes, these things are simply playthings. At this moment, the girls had finished their 100-meter run, and the group behind was the youngest squad leader, and won the first place in an instant. And the world is also ranked in the top few. It seems that these good students are all well-rounded development of morality, intelligence, physique and beauty. Naruto thought bored. And then, there are the long jump and high jump events. These 2 events are a great benefit for boys. Because in the process of long jump or high jump, the girls will have a relatively large range of movements, and at that time, they will see a lot of beautiful scenery of Kakuzu. P.S. Did everyone have such a wretched idea in their student days? Quack. Chapter 407 Yan Yi's Cheers. When the teacher announced the start of the long jump, a group of boys shouted excitedly, staring at the girls' bodies, waiting for the moment when they took off to show their perfect body, and even a little bit of candid photography. Already I took out my camera and waited silently, ready to capture the beauty of that moment. This kind of thing is very common in school. However, unlike them, Naruto stands out in a group of people. Naruto is not necessarily interested in what others are interested in. Although it is said that beautiful women will be interested, Naruto is not like other people. People stare at people like a wretched person. After all, I just did it with mommy yesterday, and Naruto's desire was not strong at this time. When the boys saw Naruto pretending to be arrogant, they were immediately disdainful and secretly despised, while some girls admired it greatly and cast their eyes on Naruto from time to time. After a while, the girls' exam items were finally completed, and they were resting in groups of 3 or 5, planning to watch the boys' exams. The boys' first test was the long jump and the high jump. Naruto didn't want to make himself too conspicuous, so in these 2 events, he just kept the top 3, not far ahead of everyone, and came up with the kind of world record-breaking results. However, the top 3 results are already very good, at least Makoto Ito is behind him. This allows the girls to discover another advantage of Naruto, that is, sports are great and they are in good health. This made some bold and spring-hearted girls keep winking at Naruto, casting all kinds of provocative glances. Naruto smiled lightly and ignored it, but immediately retired after the test, leaned aside, and acted in a low-key manner. One after another, the boys finished their long jump and high jump exams, and only the last one was left, the 100-meter run. After giving the boys a little rest, the PE teacher organized again. At this moment, a youthful and beautiful figure suddenly appeared not far away. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and he had a sweet smile on his face. It is Gui Yanye. I saw her panting and running in front of Naruto. With a delicate physique, she took a few breaths before she stood up straight and said to Naruto, "Naruto, I heard that you are taking an exam." My exam is over. Well, come here to cheer you on. Thank you so much, Yanyi. Naruto reached out and wiped the sweat from her face, and said gently, why are you in such a hurry? Even if it's too late, it's fine. Feeling Naruto's intimacy, Yanyi's face turned slightly yuhi, and her body shrank. She was not used to this kind of behavior in front of everyone. Her face flashed a hint of shyness and embarrassment, but she quickly overcame her heart. Feeling uncomfortable, he tried to stand up straight and let Naruto wipe off his sweat. Only then did he relax and a sweet smile appeared on his face. Naruto, that's great, Yanyi said happily. Naruto smiled lightly. Okay, you can rest by the side and watch my performance. Yeah, Naruto, I believe you must be the strongest. Come on. Yanyi stretched out his hand and clenched his pink fist in front of his chest, shouting encouragingly. Wow, isn't that Gui Yanye from class 4? The school girl of our school. At this time, the boys also noticed Naruto and Yanye here, and exclaimed, seeing that the two were very close. The appearance is full of jealousy. Damn it, how could Naruto Uzumaki be so good to her? Classmate Yanyi actually came to cheer him on. It's abhorrent. Woo. Yeah, breast, this guy is too big. Actually let our dreams give him to cheer, mad at me. The chatter of the boys reached the ears of Naruto and Naruto, but Naruto didn't feel anything. Yanyi was already embarrassed, and lowered his head slightly, not daring to look elsewhere. At this time, Makoto Ito and Taisuke Ziyang also stood together. Makoto Ito was full of unwillingness and loneliness. Taisuke Ziyang patted him on the shoulder and said, sincerely, cheer up, as long as we put the if this guy compares, he can greatly frustrate his face in front of Yanyi. By then, we will all have a chance. Ito Makoto's eyes lit up slightly when he heard the words. On the other side, the world looked at the silhouettes of Naruto and his eyes with complicated expressions. And now, the exam is finally about to begin. There were 3 groups outside the boys' group for the 100-meter test, and it just so happened that Naruto, Makoto Ito and Taisuke Ziyang were all in the same group. Standing next to Naruto, Taisuke Ziyang proudly lit up his muscles and laughed at Naruto. Naruto-kun, I was the 100-meter running champion at the junior high school sports meeting. Really? Naruto turned his head and glanced at him, shook his head, and thought to himself, if Yanyi wasn't here, it wouldn't matter if it was given to you first, but Yanyi was watching his performance. Well, no matter how low-key you are, you always have to show it off in front of the girls you care about. Otherwise, if Yanyi didn't come up with something under such expectations, even himself would feel unhappy. Besides, this is definitely easy for me. Okay, everyone, stand up and get ready. Let's start. With the teacher's order, everyone seemed to be like bows and arrows waiting to be fired, and they flew towards the finish line 100 meters away. The speed was immediate, and a group of people held their breath and ran the entire distance. Naruto was far ahead, opening a full 10-meter gap with the second-place Taisuke Ziyang. Makoto Ito, who was running in the middle, could only watch Naruto's back. At this time, everyone was shocked when they saw Naruto's speed so fast. Wow, it's so fast. Is this still a human? He actually pulled Taisuke Ziyang so far. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. I admire you. Naruto-kun, I love you. Naruto-kun, I love you too. I want to meet you. The bold girl, even the one who ate guago, shouted out the slogan. Chapter 408 Otome's Confession. Amid the exclamations of the crowd, Naruto rushed to the point first, and the teacher pressed the timer, and was immediately shocked. 10 seconds 07. The teacher immediately opened his mouth wide, full of disbelief. This kind of achievement, even if you go to participate in the International Olympic Games, you can get a place. Maybe even a champion. At this moment, the physical education teacher's eyes were shining brightly when he looked at Naruto. And this speed is far from the limit of Naruto. Even without chakra, he can surpass the limit of human beings purely by the strength of his body, but he does not want to express it deliberately. However, he himself did not know that in the eyes of the PE teacher, he had become a genius among geniuses. His original intention was to just run around at random and get the first place to show off a little. And this result will be a record that no one has ever broken in Jinno Academy. After the run, before Naruto walked to Yanyi's side, Yanyi quickly ran all the way to him, wiped Naruto's sweat with the towel he wore between his neck, and took a bottle of water to give it to him, let him drink. Although Naruto wasn't tired at all, he wasn't sweating or thirsty at all, and even his breathing remained steady. He still took a sip and felt Yanyi's delicacy and tenderness, and a smile appeared on his face. The others looked at Naruto with admiration. Taisuke Zeyoung looked surprised, panting slightly and saying to Makoto Ito, "This guy is a monster. I didn't expect his sports to be so good. This time he really miscalculated. Hey." Makoto Ito stared intently at the movements of Yanyi and Naruto, clenched his fists and sighed inwardly. Of course he knew how powerful Naruto was. On the tram, Naruto knocked down 3 big men in an instant, and even kicked people out. That kind of movement is so fast that you can't even see clearly, and, if you can kick a big guy of 100 or 200 pounds, how strong is the leg strength? Therefore, Naruto ran first. He was not too surprised, but he was even more envious of Naruto in his heart, but he was deeply powerless. At this time, a group of girls rushed towards Naruto desperately and surrounded Naruto. "Naruto-kun, I also have water here. Come and drink some. Naruto-kun, I have a towel to wipe your sweat. Naruto-kun, let me squeeze your shoulders. Naruto-kun." The crisp female voice kept asking around Naruto's ears, making Naruto a little big, but since Yeezy was already pushed out by the girls, he could only look at the surrounded Naruto from the outside, with a slight expression on his face. Wry smile. When Naruto finally squeezed out of the crowd of girls, he should have been attacked in many places on his face and body, which made him very embarrassed. "Huh, I kept you waiting, Yanyi." Naruto and Yanyi came to a small road far away from the crowd and couldn't help but sigh in relief. Yanyi smiled and said, "Naruto, you are very popular. I really envy someone like you who is good at sports and gentle. By the way, Naruto, you should be very sure about the exam the day after tomorrow, right?" Hee, Naruto, you just transferred to another school, so many things in the textbook are basically okay. I can help you with tuition at night. Yanyi said happily. Well, since it was Yanyi's kindness, of course I will agree. Naruto smiled and said, lamenting secretly, he really doesn't want to study and so on. But she couldn't refuse her kindness and hurt her heart. It's getting late, it's time to end class, I should go back. Let's go to the library together after school. After talking to Naruto, Yanyi trotted all the way out of Naruto's sight. Naruto's heart skipped a beat when he saw her little buttocks twisting violently while running in white shorts. Soon, he changed his clothes, returned to the classroom, and after 2 more classes, it was time to dismiss. Yanyi immediately appeared at the door of the classroom and waited for Naruto. This made all the boys envy and hate for a while. At this time, a few girls who had just come out of Yanyi's class suddenly came to her when they saw that she was waiting for Naruto. One of the beautiful girls with ponytails suddenly said, "Yanyi, are you waiting for that transfer student again?" "Well, yes, Otome." Yanyi nodded lightly and smiled at them friendly. "I heard that he is called Naruto. He is handsome and has good sports performance, right? Are you two dating?" Kato Otome laughed. Because of Naruto's performance in the physical education class, it is almost spread in the 1st grade, and even the girls in other classes such as Kato Otome all know about Naruto. Yanyi heard Wei Yuhi's face. "That, Otome, he is indeed my boyfriend now." Yanyi hesitated and said. "Oh, really? Have you ever done that kind of thing?" Otome approached her and smiled. "Ah, well, that kind of thing hasn't happened yet." Yanyi hurriedly defended, feeling a little strange in her heart that Kato Otome, who usually ignored her, why did she suddenly talk so much to herself now? "Hey, that's true." Otome suddenly sneered. if a conservative girl like you hadn't started fast, Naruto wouldn't have dated you. Yan Yi was taken aback. At this time, Naruto had come out of the classroom. Yan Yi looked slightly overjoyed, and was about to go up to call Naruto, but saw Otome Kato suddenly walking towards Naruto. Yan Yi and Naruto were stunned. Then, before Yan Yi could react, Otome suddenly put her soft lips together and kissed Naruto on the side of Naruto's cheek, turned back to Yan Yi and said with a grin, "Look, you have to do this to attract boys. Otherwise, but it's easy to run with people." Naruto was stunned. Looking at this bold girl and touching her cheek, she couldn't help but be speechless. Kato Otome saw Naruto staring at herself. A faint Yuhi dizziness flashed on her side face, and she said with a smile, "Hello, Naruto-kun, my name is Kato Otome, I'm Yan Yi's classmate, I'll love you after I announce it." After speaking, Otome quickly left with the other girls. Only the dumbfounded Naruto and Yan Yi were left. At this time, Makoto Ito was watching this scene not far away. When he saw that his former junior high school classmates actually fell in love with Naruto, he was so depressed that he almost vomited blood, and at the same time, his jealousy towards Naruto rose again. I wanted to use the physical exam to compare him before, but I didn't expect that the exam would make him the focus of attention of all the girls in the school, and the plan of myself and Taisuke Zeong could not be implemented at all. Chapter 409 Yan Yi's Initiative. "Hey, Otome, why did you suddenly confess to him?" asked Kato Otome's companion who was leaving. The scene of Otome stealing a kiss from Naruto just now made them feel incredible. Although Otome was lively and cheerful, she had never been so casual. "I heard that she liked Makoto Ito before, but I didn't expect to confess to Naruto now." Facing the companion's question, Otome smiled lightly. "Actually, I just saw that Gui Yanye was upset. You see her pretentious appearance, except to use her body to attract boys, there is nothing else useful." "Oh, it turns out that Otome, you want to fight with Yan Yi." Hee, don't worry, under your offensive, Naruto-kun will definitely be taken by you. How could someone like Yan Yi compare? You. Otome smiled slightly, but Naruto-kun looks good too. I like boys with strong sports. Wow, are you serious? At this time, Naruto and Yan Yi had already arrived in the library. Although the library was still open at this time, there were not many students studying and reading materials. After Naruto and Yan Yi entered, they found a seat. Sat down. Because of the previous Otome incident, Yan Yi lowered his head slightly, as if he was a little gloomy. Naruto noticed her strangeness and couldn't help asking, "Yan Yi, what's wrong?" Yan Yi put down the pen in his hand and suddenly raised his head to look at Naruto and said quietly, "Naruto, as your girlfriend, am I a little unqualified?" Huh. Naruto was slightly taken aback. "Why did you say that all of a sudden?" Yan Yi's face slightly turned to Yuhi, and he said slyly, "Don't you guys like to do some H things? In this regard, I don't seem to have satisfied you at all." "Ah, do you want me to do H to you?" Naruto couldn't help but leaned over, looked down at her bulging chest, secretly swallowed saliva. Could this be Yan Yi right? What about your own suggestion? Or did she already want to be fucked by herself? It's just that I couldn't help but bring it up today. Thinking of this, Naruto was a little excited. Originally, he was worried that Yan Yi was only a freshman in high school, and he couldn't let go of this. Now it seems that this is completely unnecessary. However, when Naruto smiled wickedly and just wanted to put his hand on her chest, Yan Yi suddenly huffed and ducked away, covering his chest with his hands and looking at him a little scared. "Naruto, don't. I'm a little uncomfortable." Yan Yi's reaction surprised Naruto. "What's the matter?" he asked hastily. Doesn't Yan Yi want to do this by himself? Then why is she asking such a seductive question? Hearing his eager tone, Yan Yi looked flustered, and waved his hands a little bewildered. "Well, Naruto, I think if I do this kind of thing now, will it be too much? Is it early? Sorry Naruto, I. Seeing that she seemed to be really uncomfortable, Naruto let out a slight sigh, no longer forced her, looked at her with a slight smile and said, "Okay, since you think it's not the time to do it right now, don't think about it." Naruto's words made Yanyi almost cry. Naruto is so good. There is no impetuous and lustful thoughts like other boys at all. He is so gentle and considerate to himself, and he cares so much about his own thoughts. Such a boy, why would he resist him doing H to him? Yanyi couldn't help but struggle in his heart. After a while, Yanyi leaned over to Naruto again and said softly, "Naruto, can you kiss me?" After speaking, she looked at Naruto nervously, the body could not help but tense slightly. This was the decision she made after a fierce struggle in her heart. In order not to disappoint the boy she likes, she would rather suppress her fear of that kind of thing and let him do something H to her. When Naruto heard this sentence, he turned his head and saw the tender face of Fei Yuhi, who was leaning slightly towards Yanyi. The two soft pink lips were slightly open, but the beautiful eyes were tightly closed, sending a silent invitation to him. "Yanyi." Naruto sighed slightly, held her round shoulders with both hands, put her in his arms, lowered his head, but did not kiss her, but leaned into her ear softly said, "You don't have to force yourself. If you really don't fit in, I won't force you, and you don't have that kind of psychological burden." Yanyi was shocked, opened his beautiful eyes and looked at him with surprise and joy. His eyes were full of tenderness and sweetness for a while, and he murmured, "Naruto. Okay, let's study hard." Naruto straightened her body and opened the textbook. "Yeah." After listening to Naruto's words, Yanyi nodded heavily. It wasn't until 6 o'clock that Naruto finally read all the knowledge in the book. He found that all these things could be understood and remembered as long as he read them, and it was not difficult for him at all. Then, the two left the school and took a taxi home together. At the door of Yanyi's house, the car stopped. Naruto sent her out and said goodbye to her. At this time, Yanyi suddenly grabbed Naruto's arm, looked at Naruto, stood on tiptoe and gently tapped Naruto's mouth with soft lips. Before Naruto could speak, she turned around and ran in. Home. Naruto couldn't help but smile. When Yanyi returned home, after running to his room, he leaned against the door and couldn't help thumping, with a tender face that looked like Yuhi, and his expression was shy and nervous. "I kissed him. Really kiss him. It feels so amazing." As if there was an electric current flowing through his lips, he felt like he was about to float. Touching his soft lips, Yanyi couldn't help but go crazy. Dong dong dong. At this moment, there was a knock on the door of the room, and Yanyi was awakened suddenly, and after a little panic, he sorted out his thoughts, and then opened the door. The door opened, and what he saw was his naughty and lovely sister. I saw her face with a wicked smile at this time, looking at her elder sister and giggling, "Sister, I saw it just now." "Ah, what, Shin, what did you say? What did you see?" Yanyi was suddenly shocked, and then Yuhi's little face turned up and shouted. "Hee hee, sister, you look so funny now. If a man sees it, he will definitely eat you." Gui Shin laughed and squeezed through the door, pulled her elder sister to sit on the bed, and said excitedly, "Sister, that guy is so handsome. No wonder you kiss him." Chapter 410 Easy Exam. "Well, Shin, you're actually peeking at us. It's abominable." Yanyi heard her sister's words and knew that she had been exposed, and she couldn't help but feel ashamed and embarrassed and didn't know what to do. "Hee hee, what's the matter? I'm so happy for my sister," Gui Shin said with a smile. "I used to have no relationship with boys, but now I have finally found a boy I like, and she has taken the initiative. Kissing someone is a big step forward. Also, sister, your breasts are so big. That guy will definitely be fascinated by you." She pointed to the two mountains on Yanya's chest that were far more developed than her peers, and smiled wickedly on her face. "Stand up." Feeling embarrassed by his sister, Yanyi quickly pulled her up and pushed her out the door. "Shin, you should go to bed quickly. My sister is going to sleep. Stop worrying." "Haha, I know. My sister is going to call him." Gui Shin smiled and ran out. "Shin, I haven't asked you to settle the account of what happened yesterday. As soon as he picked up the phone, Yanyi couldn't help but remember the thing about her playing Naruto yesterday, and couldn't help shouting behind. Gui Shin stuck out her tongue mischievously at her, the figure flashed, and immediately ran away. Lying on the bed, Yanyi was going to have trouble falling asleep again tonight. He finally made a bold thing, but he didn't expect to be seen by his sister. It's so embarrassing. Another day passed in such a peaceful way. On this day, it was time for the school's phased test. Jino Academy is an excellent high school. Most people study very hard. Only a small number of people do not like to study and idle around all day. In the past 2 days, Yanyi had to study with Naruto after school every day, and Naruto also passively learned some things, basically grasping everything in the book. These are not difficult for him. The time and space technique, the seal technique, this kind of complex ninjutsu knowledge has been successfully learned through Naruto's study. As for this common learning knowledge in modern times, he learned it easily. And this day was exactly what Makoto Ito was looking forward to, because he finally felt that he could surpass Naruto in this aspect. He could imagine that a guy like Naruto who sleeps in class every day and never studies, after the exam definitely the last person in the class. He didn't think that the 2 days of studying with Yanyi would be enough for him to pass the exam. At that time, when the news of Naruto's penultimate number spreads out, what kind of expression will she have when Yanyi finds out? Will you be disappointed? Thinking of this, Ito's heart is full of integrity, and he is also writing hard during the exam. An hour later, the exam that everyone was looking forward to and feared finally began. After the test started, he sat in the last seat, glanced at the test paper, and fell asleep directly. Because the test was required to be handed in half an hour later, he also planned to start writing after half an hour, and then when you're done writing it, turn it in and leave. Of course, his approach was seen by others, some worried, some ridiculed, and some gloated. Naruto didn't care about this. After sleeping for more than half an hour, he finally woke up, so he began to answer the questionnaire. In his eyes, these topics are as simple as 1 + 1 = 2, so he picks up the pen and writes them down, and the speed is astonishing. When the invigilator saw Naruto who was sleeping before, and now he was writing so fast, he suddenly became suspicious and walked quietly to Naruto to look at him. Is shocking. Most importantly, he didn't cheat at all. The puzzled teacher could only classify him as a monster and walk away. At this moment, the world that happened to be sitting in front of him suddenly turned around, quickly threw him a note, and turned around immediately. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and when he opened it, he saw that the answer to the exam was actually written inside. This girl, I didn't expect her to pass the answer to herself. However, when Makoto Ito next to him saw this, he couldn't help but get angry with the world. If you gave him the answer, wouldn't you be against yourself? Damn. Naruto didn't follow the world's answer. It only took him 10 minutes to complete the answer sheet, which took 2 hours. After finishing it, he threw down his pen and walked to the podium without looking at it, handing over the answer sheet. Walked out of the classroom dashingly. Seeing that Naruto's speed was so fast, the rest of the people couldn't help but look at his back in surprise. The world is full of doubts, and he didn't write the whole paper in the answer he passed to him, so why did he hand in the paper? So, after this exam was finally over, the world found Naruto blowing the wind on the rooftop. Naruto-kun, have you read the answer I gave you earlier? At this time, Naruto was thinking about some questions about chakra, and when he heard the words, he came back to his senses and smiled at her. World, I didn't copy your answer at all. But I still have to thank you. Why don't you copy it? You can't pass the exam. The world couldn't help worrying about him. Naruto smiled lightly. It's okay, thank you for your concern. My tutoring with Yanyi 2 days ago was not for nothing. But, even if you and Yanyi are tutoring, it's impossible to learn everything in the textbook in 2 days, right? Shizuo asked. Haha. Seeing how concerned she was, Naruto couldn't help laughing. Naruto-kun, I'm talking about serious business. You always laugh like this. The world said angrily. Naruto stepped forward and patted her on the shoulder, with a bright smile on his face. Don't worry, I can do this kind of test, trust me. Seeing the confident look on his face, he couldn't help but startled. On this day, a total of 3 exams were taken. For these 3 exams, Naruto was the first to submit the papers, and he was sleeping before. This strange behavior, not only the world and Makoto Ito sitting in front of him are very strange, but even the class monitor who has always been very good in grades has also noticed this bad student. In her eyes, people like Naruto who didn't bring books on the first day of class, didn't hand in homework the next day, and slept every class, how could they do it so fast? Wouldn't he have handed in a blank paper? It must be like this, otherwise, with his ability, how could it be so easy? Thinking like this, he was even more disdainful of Naruto in an instant. Chapter 411 Full Score. The next day, in the expectation of everyone, the test results came out soon. In the first class in the morning, the monitor took the exam papers and distributed them one by one in person. The students who got the grades were surprised and depressed, but in short, everyone could not calm down. At this time, only Naruto looked indifferent. He lay on the table and fell asleep. When she handed out the exam results in front of him, she deliberately glanced at his results. As a result, she immediately shouted excitedly, "How is it possible? The sound is incredibly exciting and unbelievable. What's wrong?" Moment. The world turned to look at her and said strangely, and found that he was staring at the answer sheet in his hand in a daze. He couldn't help but glance at it, and suddenly exclaimed, 100 points. This is Naruto-kun, S. The world saw Naruto's name on the answer sheet in Shanna's hand, and was shocked enough. Full marks. How is this possible? Naruto has never studied seriously, how can he get a perfect score? Even she herself is only 90%. Naruto was woken up by the yelling of the two of them, looked up at them, and said strangely, "What's wrong? Is my exam paper?" He took it over and saw the full score of 100. With a faint smile, he stuffed the answer sheet into the desk. And the world and the two women are already staring at him with their mouths open, and the small cherry mouth seems to be enough to stuff a big egg. Naruto-kun, did you really do this? The world murmured. Of course. But how could you do so well? Oh sorry, I'm not doubting you, it's just amazing. Yeah, you guys have never studied at all, how can you be better than me in the test? Shanna glared at him in disapproval. Sweat. Naruto is a bit big-headed. He knew that he should have deliberately made a few mistakes, but he didn't expect these students to respond so much. At this time, Makoto Ito was also attracted attention, secretly listening to the conversations of several people. When he learned that Naruto actually got a perfect score, the expression on his face immediately became dull. Immediately afterwards, he was so depressed that he wanted to die. He originally wanted to suppress him in the only place that could compare to Naruto, but he never expected that Naruto would have such a result. Wrong. This must be cheating, he thought to himself. Damn, why wasn't this kind of cheating detected by the invigilator? At this moment, Ito Makoto has completely lost his calm in his heart, and his body can't help trembling with excitement. Fortunately, everyone was paying attention to the situation on Naruto's side at this time, and did not notice Makoto Ito's strangeness. After some girls learned of Naruto's perfect score in the exam, their impression of him changed drastically. Some girls who had quit because of his grades were attacking Naruto at this time. Naruto-kun, you are amazing, even stronger than the squad leader Setsuna. Naruto-kun, hang out with me, I must get you this time. Naruto-kun, I love you, I'm going to jump off the building if you don't date me. Were all kinds of exaggerated calls, and Naruto was frightened by the enthusiasm of these guys. Even if he saved the world as Hokage in the Hokage world, the girls were not so excited that they were fighting to the death. In the excitement of the crowd, Makoto Ito left the classroom in despair, and Taisuke Zeong also followed. When the two came to the rooftop, their backs looked so desolate. Hey, it seems that he is really hiding. I think I should give up. Makoto Ito shook his head and sighed. Zeong Taisuke snorted. This guy must be cheating. I don't believe he can get such good grades. You can't give up. How can you give up easily as a man? I can't do it. It seemed that Makoto Ito was completely beaten. Hey, do you still look like the Makoto I know? If you like someone, go after him. Even if you can't beat that guy, you might not be able to catch up with Yanyi, right? Said Taisuke Zeong. Makoto Ito turned his head to look at him. I don't have the thick skin of you. Bastard. You are so disappointed in me. Since you don't go, Yanyi will leave it to me. I will pursue her tomorrow. If she doesn't agree, even if you use force, you can get her. Ah, how can you do this? Makoto Ito was startled, but saw a malicious smile on Taisuke Zeong's face. Makoto, this guy has already robbed too many girls in school. Now everyone only sees him, a transfer student. Why? We must give him some color. This can't be done. Makoto Ito quickly shook his head. Don't you want to make an overstepping move? At this point, if we don't do something, we really have no hope. Of course, we must be careful. Taisuke Zeong laughed. But they didn't know that on the other side of the rooftop, Naruto was looking at the two of them with a thoughtful look on his face, and then a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. A few days later, Naruto's reputation had spread throughout Jinyei Academy, and almost everyone knew that there was such a powerful transfer student as Naruto. In Naruto's desk, he would often turn to piles of love letters, papers. Strip. He didn't expect that the campus here would be so crazy. Naruto ignored these things, just went to school with Yanyi every day, after school, and when mommy came to see her on weekends, he had sex with her. Love, usually most of the time is spent on practicing chakra. And his relationship with Yanyi is getting better and better, and Yanyi is becoming more and more dependent on him, although he still resists that kind of thing. Every time he touches Naruto's eyes looking at his body, she would feel guilty and wanted to let Naruto satisfy herself once, but she couldn't make up her mind. However, after school that day, when she was about to leave the classroom to wait for Naruto, Otome Kato suddenly led a group of girls to her. What's the matter? Yanyi looked up at them and asked timidly. Judging from the looks on their faces, it doesn't seem to be a good thing. Sure enough, Kato Otome said to her indifferently, Yanyi, can you come with us? Yanyi was stunned, hesitant. Another person shouted, you have the courage to grab a man, don't you even have the courage to speak to us now? Chapter 412 Yanyi was bullied. Yanyi heard this, she frowned slightly, took out her mobile phone and said, I can come with you, but please let me and Naruto send a text message first. With that, she was on the pink Yuhi-colored couple's mobile phone. Entering a text message and intending to send it to Naruto, Kato Otome suddenly snapped the phone away from her hand. Sneered, what text messages are you sending? Do you really think you are his woman? This phone is still a couple's phone. Shame on you. Yanyi's complexion changed, but when he wanted to argue, he saw the other party's face with confidence, so he could only silently nodded, stood up and followed them away. In the girls' toilet of the school, a group of girls surrounded Yanyi in the middle. Kato Otome took the lead and looked at her with disdain. Gue Yanyi, I heard that you and Naruto-kun have been developing for many days, right? Yes, Yanyi nodded. Hey, all the girls sneered, but as far as we know, you and he haven't done anything with H yet. H thing. Yeah, as a qualified girlfriend, you have to satisfy your boyfriend's desires. Hope, have you ever been with him? Kato Otome sneered. Yanyi opened her mouth, she wanted to say that she had kissed Naruto, but she couldn't say it. What could it be? In their eyes, only that is H, right? Humph, you really have nothing to say. You occupy Naruto all by yourself, and don't do H's business for him. Do you know how painful this is for a man? As a girlfriend, you didn't care about Naruto at all. Man-kun's feelings. You selfish bastard. Kato Otome taught an angry lesson. Yeah, you selfish guy. You only seduce men with your body, but don't let them eat. It's too mean and cunning. A woman like you doesn't deserve the love of Naruto-kun. Yanyi was speechless after being taught by them. He stepped back and leaned against the wall. Kato Otome suddenly stretched out her hand and pressed down on the two huge mountains of meat on Yanyi's chest, with a wicked smile on her mouth. It's so obvious here, it makes us jealous when we see it, but we don't rub it with men. What a waste for something so big to grow on you. In that case, we'll destroy you. After she finished speaking, a group of women around her rushed up, grabbed her hands and feet, firmly controlled Yanyi, and let Otome ravage her. No, don't. What are you doing? Yanyi screamed in fright, but the voice was suppressed by someone as soon as she came out. She could only whimper and stare at Kato Otome in front of her. Watching her hands fall on a mountain that she had never touched before, and were squeezed into an incomparably exaggerated appearance. A strange feeling came. Yanyi was ashamed and afraid, and she struggled violently, but how could she alone compete with a group of girls? And Otome's face was full of excited smile. Looking at Yanyi's breasts, the ministry changed her appearance wantonly under her own hands, and looking at the Yuhian white look on her face, she only felt refreshed in her heart. Snort. Let her dominate Naruto. Let her breasts minister so big. You must humiliate her today. Thinking like this, Otome was not satisfied with just rubbing her breasts outside, untied the clothes on Yanyi's chest, and reached out and touched it inside. Don't. Woo. Yanyi struggled hard, whimpering intermittently. I screamed Naruto's name in my heart. Come and save me. Naruto. Naruto-kun. At this moment, one of the girls suddenly saw Naruto walking calmly from the toilets, and couldn't help but startled. Kato Otome was stunned for a moment, and the movement of her hands stopped. She turned to look at Naruto, with a dry smile on her face. Naruto-kun. Naruto didn't even look at her. He came directly to Yanyi, stretched out his hand and grabbed the arms of the girls who were restraining her, flung them slightly, and immediately threw them out, thumping them on the ground. Painful, I can't stop calling. He raised his head and looked at the expressionless Naruto in horror. They didn't expect Naruto to have such great strength, to be able to throw people straight away. And more importantly, he can even get a girl. So violent, so cold. At this moment, Naruto added these two words in their impression. At this time, Yanyi's chest was already wide open, the pink hood drooped weakly on his chest, and the two big white rabbits had marks of being pinched by Yuhi. Seeing Naruto coming, Yanyi was surprised and delighted, but shyly covered her chest with her hands. Naruto. Yanyi's voice was about to cry. Yanyi, I'm sorry, I'm late. Naruto stretched out his hand. Yanyi threw himself into his arms, burst into tears, and no longer cared about covering his body with his hands, and turned to death-hugged Naruto's waist. In his arms, she doesn't need to worry about anything anymore. Okay, it's all right, Yanyi. Naruto patted her jade back lightly and comforted her softly. The gentle voice made the girls around her face Yuhi. If you were so gently comforted by him, even if I die immediately in the next moment, I am willing. At this time, their hearts were full of fear at this time, and Naruto's tenderness to Yanyi made their hearts colder and colder. After a while, several girls did not leave, but Otome Kato stood by with her head bowed like a child who made a mistake and was caught by her parents. Her face completely lost the arrogance and domineering she had when she bullied Yanyi before. After Naruto comforted Yanyi, he turned around and looked at Otome Kato lightly. Feeling Naruto's gaze, Kato Otome felt like she was being seen through her entire body at this moment, and the special pressure almost suffocated her. Raising her head, she looked at Naruto in horror. Ming, people, Kun. Humph. Naruto snorted coldly, grabbed Otome's shoulders with one arm around Yanyi, pulled her over, and said coldly, how did you bully Yanyi just now? Now I'll let Yan Yi. Yi is back. What? Otome was startled suddenly, and before she could react, she only heard a soft hissing sound. The school uniform on her body was torn apart, revealing the pure white hood inside. Yan Yi was also stunned, and stared blankly at Naruto and Otome with his mouth open. Ah, nasty, Otome exclaimed, and hurriedly moved her hands to cover her, but Naruto grabbed both of her hands with one hand, leaving her struggling in vain. Yan Yi, now you can return it. Chapter 413 Humiliate Otome. Ah, Naruto, what are you doing? Yan Yi was taken aback and stared blankly at the Otome with her chest wide open in front of her, who was beginning to take shape under the pure white hood of two white rabbits. Naruto smiled, looked down at Yanya's huge mountain of meat exposed in the air, and said, "Didn't she hurt you a lot before? If you don't teach her a lesson, she won't know what it is in the future." Scared. But, isn't this not a good idea? The kind Yan Yi would not do such a bullying thing, and said with a bit of resistance. Naruto frowned slightly, seeing Otome looking at herself in horror. She smiled. Yan Yi, the reason why she bullies you is because you are not good at resisting and let others be everywhere. Your character is very disadvantageous, and, if you let her go now, she may not let you go in the future, so you must teach her a profound lesson. Seeing the firm look on Naruto's face, Yan Yi couldn't help being stunned. She never thought that the gentle Naruto would have such a resolute and domineering side, even if he beat up the three wretched men in the car at the beginning, just act of self-defense. But at this time, Naruto had to bully Otome back for himself. She didn't know if she was moved or something else, but it was a bit complicated anyway. However, Naruto can treat a girl like this for himself. In contrast, he has given himself too much tenderness and too much romance. How could he go against Naruto's wishes? What's more, this is what Naruto does for his own good. Thinking of this, Yan Yi couldn't help biting Silver Kiba secretly, stretched out his hand, and leaned on Otome in front of him. No, don't. Otome's face turned pale. Yuhi. She kept struggling, the white hood leaking in front of Naruto, and Yan Yi on her chest kept shaking up and down. Her face long ago lost the arrogant and domineering expression on her face, replaced by a look of fear, horror, and a very hurt look. Naruto smiled lightly, looked at the pitiful look on her face, and said, "Do you know how it feels to be bullied now?" Naruto-kun, let go, let me go. Otome begged. Don't humiliate me like this. Woo. Naruto's face was expressionless, but at this time, Yan Yi had already closed his beautiful eyes slightly, and his hands lightly touched the hood of Otome. That soft and elastic feeling made Yan Yi's face turn Yuhi, and his palms were slightly trembling. This is the first time she has touched another woman's breasts. Such a strange feeling. Yan Yi, you. Otome trembled. It was the first time someone touched her chest. This feeling was completely unexpected. She couldn't help staring at Yan Yi with her mouth wide open, her expression on the full of astonishment. Yan Yi closed his eyes and didn't dare to look at Otome's face. He grabbed Otome's chest with both hands and scratched. Otome couldn't help but groan softly. Yan Yi, don't do this. I was wrong. It feels weird. Quote. Otome's body twisted slightly, but Naruto grabbed her hands and couldn't break free at all. She could only be controlled weakly by Naruto, and her chest was teased by Yan Yi's hands. Yan Yi's movements are more like rubbing than scratching. It is completely incomparable to the previous time when Otome bullied her. Otome really hurt Yan Yi, but Yan Yi's movements are not bullying at all. It should be regarded as a light stroke. The feeling caused to Otome is not pain at all, but enjoyment. That strange feeling seems to be an electric current running around her body. After a while, Yan Yi asked Naruto cautiously, "Naruto, is it alright?" Naruto saw Otome's face full of tied Yuhi, and actually felt a little regretful in his heart. He was also tormented by doing this. Who knew that Yan Yi would not let go at all, to ravage Otome, but in her kind under the caress, Otome enjoyed a wonderful feeling that made her feel uncomfortable all over. At this time, the other girls who fell to the ground looked at Naruto with a strange look on their faces, seeing Otome being humiliated, and the expression of resistance and enjoyment on her face. Involuntarily Yuhi moistened. Naruto-kun, good or bad? Actually, to punish Otome in this way, how can a girl bear it? Naruto, my hands are so sore. Yanyi said again. Naruto finally came back to his senses, nodded and said, okay, Yanyi, it's alright, this time I'm really embarrassing you, but people like her won't learn if you don't give some color. Nice. Yanyi nodded obediently, opened his eyes, looked at Yuhi, who was full of tibes in front of him, silver kiba clenched tightly, looked at himself and Naruto's Otome with embarrassment, and couldn't help but startled. Did you hurt her? Why is she like this? Looking at her pitiful posture, Yanyi couldn't bear it anymore, and couldn't help but look at Naruto. Naruto, let's go. Only then did Naruto let go of Otome. Otome released her hands, and hurriedly stepped back, leaning against the wall weakly, looking at Naruto with shyness and fear in her eyes, her expression complicated. Naruto sneered and threatened. Otome, you are not allowed to bully Yanyi in the future, do you know? Otherwise, I will make you pay a heavy price. Looking at his ruthless appearance, Otome was about to cry, and she likes you too. However, you have to treat me like this. Compared with Yanyi, you have given her so much tenderness, but it is so unfair to me. Otome was angry and aggrieved in her heart, tears welling in her eyes. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but she still couldn't say anything, so she could only look at him shyly and scared, and nodded slightly. He nodded and stopped talking. Seeing that she seemed to be really scared, Naruto nodded with satisfaction, reached out and pulled Yanyi out of the women's toilet. At this time, Yujien also tidied up the collar that was torn by Otome just now. Although the chest still hurts a little, there is still some strange feeling on it, which makes her white and tender cheeks red. Yuhi. When Naruto walked in, she had already seen her body, and her heart pounded like a deer. The two of Naruto had just left when the girls stood up, looked in horror at the direction Naruto had left, and then came to Otome and helped her leave. Chapter 414 The World's Help. Otome, are you all right? I'm fine. Goddess Otto looked at the place where Naruto left with a very responsible look, before sighing slightly after a long time, packed up her clothes and left. At this time, Naruto and Yanyi were already riding the tram. In the car, Yanyi kept her head down and didn't speak, as if she was thinking about something. When she got out of the car, she finally stood up and said to Naruto, Naruto, will you come to my house next time? Naruto was stunned. I just thought about it for a long time, and felt that I didn't do my job at all. Otome is right. As your girlfriend, I have always refused to have that kind of contact with you. Naruto, do you feel it too? I hope you don't hate me because of this. Yanyi said softly. Naruto heard this. He couldn't help shaking his head and laughing. Yanyi, you won't really listen to Otome's words, will you? I think she also makes sense. Seeing her stubborn appearance, Naruto's heart beat. If Yanyi really wanted to do H's thing with him, would he refuse? Obviously, he is not Lu Shahui. How could a girl who likes him and also like him make such a request? How could he not agree? Then we can try, Naruto said. To be honest, Yanyi's body is indeed very attractive to men. Even Naruto, when he saw the spring light on Yanyi's chest before, was very moved, but he would not force her. At this time, Yanyi proposed. Of course he really wanted to do it with her too. Well, then we'll agree. On Saturday this week. No one in my house. Yanyi said shyly with his head lowered slightly. After saying this, she rushed out of the tram without looking back, and ran away with a look of shame on Yuhi's face. Naruto took the elevator back home, but his heart was already tickled by Yanyi's words. The two white tender and majestic mountains of meat on her chest kept appearing in her mind, and she nodded shyly and said that she wanted to go by herself. The look of her home. It's so tempting. The amorous feelings that Yanyi, this little girl, inadvertently showed, were simply unbearable. Naruto hurriedly sat down cross-legged and practiced chakra silently, in order to drive out those charming thoughts in his heart. Finally, the Saturday agreed with Yan Yi came. On this day, everyone didn't have to go to school. Naruto received a text message from Yan Yi early, saying that he was asking him to go to her house. However, at this time, he received another unfamiliar call, and he couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. After the connection, what came out was the crisp voice of the world. Naruto-kun. World, how do you know my phone number? Naruto said in surprise. Of course I have my own way. The world asked with a smile, are you free now Naruto-kun? Now, I might have something to do here. When Naruto thought that he was going to go to Yan Yi's house to do something he liked, Naruto felt a little anxious in his heart. Well, I'm shopping with Ito-kun right now. We're in trouble. Our wallet was accidentally stolen by a thief. Can you come and lend us some money to let me go home? Naruto was stunned when he heard the words. Wallet stolen. Yeah, it's still a long way from home, it'll be very tiring to walk back. Can you help me, Naruto-kun? The world begged. Naruto was helpless, so he had to agree to her request, and then sent a text message to Yan Yi, informing her that she might have to go to her house later because of a temporary business. Then, he took a taxi to where Seiko and Ito Makoto were, and met them at the door of a supermarket. At this time, they were standing at the entrance of the supermarket one after the other. When they saw Naruto getting off the bus, the world quickly waved to him. Naruto-kun, we're here. The voice of the world came from afar, and Makoto Ito next to her was a little depressed, because he was very reluctant to accept Naruto when he called Naruto in the world. He was helped by the rival in love, but under the insistence of the world, he couldn't do anything about it. Naruto walked over and saw that both of them were carrying something in their hands, as if they had just bought something from the supermarket. Naruto-kun, it's really hard for you. The world ran up and pulled Naruto's arm with a look of joy. Because of Naruto's warning last time, Makoto Ito was a little afraid of him, and just reluctantly greeted him. Naruto nodded lightly, took out some money and handed it to the world. Okay, my mission is completed, you should be able to go back, I'll go first if I have something to do. After Naruto finished speaking, he walked away, just then. Naruto-kun, you're leaving so soon. The world couldn't help being a little surprised when Naruto left as soon as he arrived. Yeah, something happened. Oh, goodbye then Naruto-kun, I'll pay you back on Monday. The world responded with a sound. Naruto nodded and was about to take a taxi to Yan Yi's house. Suddenly, a panicked scream came from behind. World, Makoto Ito exclaimed, and Naruto turned his head quickly, only to see several figures suddenly rushing out from a nearby jewelry store, holding World's body hostage, and a dazzling dagger resting on it. On her delicate white jade neck. The world has been stunned by this sudden change, and some of the things I just bought in my hands have all fallen to the ground. Sincerity, help me, the world shouted in panic. Ito Makoto was about to rush up, but was glared at him by the kidnappers. Go away. If you dare to take another step, I will kill her. Makoto Ito was yelled and his legs were weak, and he didn't dare to come up again. At this time, several accomplices in the jewelry store frantically robbed the jewelry on the counter and filled a large bag. Seeing this scene, the hijacked world finally realized in horror what had happened to him. It turned out that this group of people was planning to rob jewelry, but I didn't expect that they were so unlucky that they were caught and held hostage by these gangsters who rushed out. You, let me go. The world struggled a little, but the opponent's dagger was firmly on her neck. She didn't dare to struggle violently at all, she could only open her mouth to beg for mercy. Stop talking nonsense. However, the gangsters ignored the world's words at all, carried her directly into a car, and walked away. Chapter 415 Naruto's Pursuit. Naruto couldn't help but look startled when he saw this scene. As soon as he was about to get into the car, he got into the taxi and shouted to the driver, "Come after the car in front." And the driver had already seen the scene where the world was kidnapped just now, and he couldn't help hesitating when he heard Naruto's words. This little brother, let's call the police. Blindly chasing after him may be dangerous. Come on. Naruto didn't want to say more, and glared at him directly. A special coercion was overwhelmed, and the driver only felt that Naruto's eyes seemed to have the momentum of a stormy sea, which made people fundamentally hard to resist. He swallowed and nodded hard. Okay, let's go. At Naruto's urging, the driver finally chased after him with his car. The cars of the gangsters drove very fast, but the driver's skills were also very good. The two cars chased after each other and ran fast in the downtown area. At this time, Makoto Ito finally reacted, and the panic on his face had not disappeared. He quickly took out his mobile phone and called the police. The world was in the car, and was firmly restrained by a bald man. The dagger was not on his neck, but in front of these murderous gangsters, the world was trembling with fright, and he didn't know what to do. And the gangsters had just finished the robbery at this time, and they were very nervous, for fear that the police would catch up. Fortunately, the speed of the police was not so fast, and they kept flying around the city before the police could catch up. At this time, the taxi that Naruto was in also followed closely behind. Hey, brother, what happened to that car? Why did it keep following us? Cried a gangster who was constantly looking at the situation behind. The eldest brother sitting in the passenger seat also saw the car, and actually chased it earlier and faster than the police car. Bastard, who is this guy? I don't know, try to get rid of it. The car galloped fast, and the sirens were blaring from behind. Soon the car drove through the city and came to the suburbs. Under the pressure of Naruto, the driver had to keep chasing him, but he was actually very flustered. Little brother, the police are already chasing after him. Let's not mix in, shall we? The driver advised. Naruto frowned slightly, shook his head and said firmly, no. You must chase me. The driver smiled bitterly and wanted to persuade again, but at this time Naruto's eyes were extremely sharp, as if he wanted to completely penetrate the person. Naruto's instructions have been chasing to a remote mountain village. This guy is not easy. The driver thought to himself. Finally, the gangster's vehicle stopped in an abandoned factory. As soon as they stopped the car, they quickly got out of the car and closed the door of the factory. Naruto only got out of the car at this time and glanced at the driver. Thank you, I have nothing to do with you here and leave now. Hey, little brother, don't mess around, you will kill people. At this time, the driver didn't care about asking for money from Naruto, so he kindly advised him. Naruto smiled lightly, shook his head, closed the door and walked out. The driver's persuasion was ineffective, so he had to restart the car and leave far away. At this time, all the police cars arrived at the scene. A group of police officers got out of the car and rushed to the gate of the factory. Don't come in, otherwise, we can't guarantee the safety of the hostages in our hands. The gangster's voice came. When a group of police heard this, they could only surround the door and did not dare to forcibly enter. At this time, Naruto had quietly walked around to the back of the factory, saw an empty courtyard wall, jumped directly, and with a light touch of his hand, the figure had already jumped into the courtyard wall. The wall is only over 2 meters high, and even if Naruto does not need to use his arms, he can cross it out of thin air. With a faint smile, Naruto bent over to pick up a few stones on the ground and walked quietly towards the factory area. At this time, the horns of the police and the screams of the gangsters continued to come from not far away. World's hands were tied behind his back, his mouth was firmly gagged with a white cloth, his hair was slightly messy, his little face was pale and colorless with fright, and his eyes were full of panic. Ah, woo-woo, she kept whimpering in her throat, but it was all in vain. The tense and anxious gangsters were also upset at this time. They heard the annoying look of the world and took the lead. The eldest brother gave her a vicious look. Call again. I'll take your turn. The world trembled with fright, and quickly stopped making a sound. At this time, Naruto had quietly come not far behind them, and saw a group of gangsters constantly looking at the police at the gate of the factory, screaming, and all their attention was focused on the police outside. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he had already seen the figure of the world, and her panicked appearance was particularly pitiful. The next moment, Naruto walked directly from the rear towards the place where the world was. Who? The gangsters suddenly noticed the change in the back, and quickly turned around to stare at Naruto with fierce eyes, but they couldn't help but stunned. Who is this stinky boy? One of them asked in a daze. Stop for me. Another person quickly pulled over the world's body, pressing the dagger in his hand against her tender neck. Naruto stopped according to his words and looked at them lightly from a distance of more than 10 meters from them. Let go of that girl, I'll spare you once. Naruto said lightly. What did you say? The gangsters thought they had heard it wrong, and it was unbelievable that the unarmed young man in front of him could say such arrogant words. And the world also looked at Naruto in astonishment. She didn't expect that the first person who appeared in front of her was not the policeman, not Makoto Ito, but Naruto. Didn't he leave before? Is he here to save himself? At this moment, the world froze. Why is he so brave? Doesn't he know that this is not something ordinary people can participate in at all? Didn't he know that doing so was putting his own life at risk? I don't want to say the same thing again. Naruto's palms clenched slightly, his eyes narrowed, and a faint murderous aura flashed in his eyes. In an instant, several gangsters hurriedly shivered inexplicably in their vests. Bastard, do you think you are the old man? Come on, let me scrap him. A few people shouted that they were about to rush up, but they saw Naruto's arm suddenly raised, and the next moment, a few swooshing sounds suddenly came out. Chapter 416 Small Wind Blade. In an instant, the stones that had been prepared in Naruto's hand flew out, and a few faint shadows flashed quickly. Ah! The next moment, a scream suddenly sounded. But he saw the dagger in the hands of the criminal who was hijacking the world fell to the ground with a clang, and then he held his right hand tightly and stepped back. A few people suddenly turned pale in shock. They didn't see anything flying at all, only to see Naruto's arm moving slightly like a shadow, and the dagger of their companion had already fallen to the ground. How is this going? However, the gangsters had no time to think, because at the moment when the man's screams sounded, Naruto's figure flashed like a meteor and suddenly appeared beside the world. Be careful, the gangsters only felt a flash in front of their eyes. When they just reacted, Naruto flashed to their side like a ghost, hugged the world's slender waist, and swept forward with his feet. Bang bang bang. The three gangsters flew out all of a sudden, and only the elder brother who took the lead was staring blankly at Naruto. I've already given you the opportunity, but if you don't cherish it yourself, there's nothing you can do about it. Naruto said lightly. As he spoke, he untied the shackles on the world's hands and pulled out the cloth strip from her mouth. The world's body regained its freedom, and suddenly threw itself into Naruto's arms with a wow. Ooh, Naruto-kun, I'm so scared. She hid in Naruto's arms and shivered, hugging his waist tightly, weeping. It's okay, the world, now I'm here, I will protect you. Naruto smiled and patted her jade back lightly. The gentle voice seemed to be a warm current, slowly flowing through the heart of the world, holding Naruto and listening to his comfort. She seemed to have found a safe harbor, her mood slowly calmed down, and the previous fears slowly dissipated. At this moment, the big brother who took the lead suddenly took out a black thing from his pocket and pointed it directly at Naruto. Bastards! Don't move, or I'll shoot you, he yelled at the two of Naruto. The world turned around and saw that the black muzzle was aimed directly at the two of them, and immediately screamed in fright, and quickly retracted into Naruto's arms, his body tense and he didn't dare to move anymore. It's actually a gun. It's a gun. Naruto frowned slightly, and then a smile appeared on his face. What if you have a gun? What? The gangster brother was startled, but looked at Naruto's hands. At this time, he was holding the world, and there was nothing in his hands. Humph! Stop being arrogant to me. If you have the ability, you can rush over. Is it your quick action or my quick gun? You can try it. Naruto smiled, and at this time the world was so frightened that he closed his eyes, hiding in his arms and didn't dare to open his eyes. That's what you want. Naruto moved his arm and flicked his fingers slightly. The elder brother was startled and was about to press the trigger, but his fingers suddenly went numb. Kai. In the next instant, a stream of blood spurted out from his index finger holding the trigger in an instant, and sprayed out more than 2 meters away. Ah! It wasn't until then that the pain reached the head of the elder brother. He screamed in agony, and the black pistol in his hand was thrown straight to the side. He covered the cold sweat on his fingers. What the hell is going on? How did you do it? Are you a devil? Are you a devil? He stared at Naruto in disbelief, and stepped back again and again. A sense of absurdity arose in his heart. Thought, this guy is definitely not human. Otherwise it is impossible to do so. His fingers flew out in an instant, and he didn't even see how he attacked him. Too terrifying. At this moment, the elder brother and those who were knocked to the ground looked at Naruto's figure as if they were looking at the devil, their faces full of horror. Naruto smiled lightly and walked slowly towards them. In fact, when the other party pointed the gun at him just now, there were no stones in his hand, but the only trace of chakra left in his body that could be used, turned into a wind blade in an instant, and flew from his fingers in an instant. Go out. Although, this trace of chakra is too little, so little that he can barely use the small wind blade once, and this wind blade is only the size of a finger. However, this is enough. With the sharpness of the wind blade, it is enough for him to cut off the opponent's fingers and let the opponent's trigger finger go away from him. Don't come here. At this time, these gangsters looked at Naruto's figure getting closer and closer, as if they had completely become victims. Naruto, you. At this time, the world had also recovered, and looked at everything in front of him with big beautiful eyes. Naruto smiled slightly. World, you go to stay there first, I'll come over immediately after I deal with it. The world hesitated, but after seeing the unquestionable look on Naruto's face, she nodded obediently and walked away. Naruto, be careful. Hey, don't come here. The gangsters were so scared that they almost urinated. At this time, even if they had the strength to stand up, they would no longer have the strength to resist, because the force Naruto showed before was really terrible. This is no longer a means that ordinary humans can have. Akatsuki will never know in their hearts. Naruto sneered and looked at their frightened appearance. He kept walking, came to them, raised his feet, and then fell fiercely. Click click. In an instant, several sounds of broken bones sounded, followed by a scream that was higher than a while. Even the world that was hiding far away heard their voices. And Naruto had already walked back at this time, came to the side of the world, smiled slightly. Okay, let's leave, just treat it as a farce and forget it. Naruto, what did you do to them? The world asked, looking up. It's just a small punishment. The world looked up and stared at him, with the look in his eyes as if he had known him for the first time, and suddenly said, Naruto, who are you? Why are you so powerful? Chapter 417 Accompany the world. Naruto already had a way to deal with the world's problems. He explained with a faint smile, I've only practiced since I was a child. These gangsters are not very powerful characters at all, so I can still deal with them. Really? Hearing Naruto's explanation, the world was dubious. After all, Naruto's strength just overturned her cognition. She had never met such a powerful person. Naruto's actions, just like the heroic protagonists in the movie, she did not expect that there are such powerful people in real life. Are all those who have practiced martial arts so powerful? The world can't figure it out, but she was rescued by Naruto after all, and she was rescued in such a dangerous situation. Her mood was extremely excited and complicated. Looking at Naruto's figure, her heart was beating fast. She felt a little bit. I don't understand my own mind. Perhaps, as Cheng said, he should pursue Naruto, right? Why don't you pursue a person as good as him? The two quickly came to the backyard wall of the factory. No one was paying attention outside the wall, so Naruto decided to leave from here. He gently picked up World's body and let her sit on the wall first, and then Naruto climbed over the wall and took her down. The World threw itself into Naruto's arms from the wall, and his face couldn't help but slightly yuhi. "Naruto-kun, thank you," she whispered. "It's nothing, it's just a small gesture for me. But you saved me from these wicked people, and you are my savior." The World looked up at his face. There seemed to be something more in his eyes, and his eyes flickered slightly. Naruto smiled lightly. "Okay, now the most important thing is to go home first, and leave the affairs of those gangsters to the police." "Yeah," the World nodded heavily. "Naruto-kun, there is still a long way to go from here to the city." They walked out of the small village in the suburbs, and the two came to a continent and went to the station to take a bus. It was noon at this time. Naruto wanted to go to Yan Yi's house, but he had to send the World home first. She, a girl, had just been so frightened, and now was the time when she needed someone to accompany her the most. However, Yan Yi's side is a little more difficult. Naruto thought about it for a while. The car had already arrived, and he got into the car with Shiji, and the two went directly to Shiji's house along the way. After getting off the car and taking her to the door, Naruto let out a light sigh before preparing to leave. At this moment, the World suddenly grabbed his arm and begged, "Naruto-kun, can you come in and stay with me for a while? I'm a little scared." Naruto was stunned. "Is there no one in your family?" "Well, I'm alone at home today, so I'm a little scared. If Naruto-kun was next to me, I would feel much more at ease," Yuji said softly with a slight expression on the World's face. "And now it's already time to eat, Naruto-kun, or aren't you hungry? I'll make you something to eat." Quote. Hearing the World's words, Naruto had no choice but to agree. Originally, he thought that the World had his parents at home, and the task was completed when he sent her back. He didn't expect to stay to accompany her. Yan Yi's side seemed to be delayed for a long time. After nodding, Naruto followed her into the room, took out his mobile phone with both hands, and sent a text message to Yan Yi, saying that he had to go to her side later because of a temporary business. After receiving the text message, Yan Yi couldn't help but worry. If it was too late, his parents would be coming back from get off work. Then you can't do that kind of thing with him. But she still understands Naruto very well. Since Naruto said that there is something, there must be something, and she can't disturb him. And after Naruto walked into Shiji's house, Shiji warmly invited him to sit down on the sofa in the living room, and turned on the TV for him to watch, and she quickly went to make tea for him. After a while, the World brought a teacup to Naruto with a smile on his face, handed him a teacup and smiled softly. "Naruto-kun, is this your first time at my house? What do you think?" Naruto took it, took a sip, and smiled lightly. "The World's house is not bad, it's big and spacious, and the tea is delicious too. Hee, as long as you like it, I'll go prepare lunch." Hearing Naruto's praise, the World laughed happily, and after saying it, he hurried to prepare food. After all, at this time, the two of them also hungry. After dinner, the World is clearing the dishes. Naruto calculated that it was getting late, and she would really have to wait in a hurry if she didn't go to Yan Yi's side, so she said goodbye and left. But the World panicked a little when he heard it. "Naruto-kun, don't leave so soon. My parents haven't come back yet, stay with me." Hearing her coquettish voice, Naruto couldn't help it. At this time, his mobile phone suddenly rang, and the caller ID was Yan Yi. The World sat next to him and saw the caller ID on Naruto's phone at a glance. Naruto connected, and Yan Yi's soft voice came from inside. "Naruto, where are you now?" Naruto glanced at the World and said vaguely, "I'm outside." "Oh, Naruto, I may have to say sorry to you. I'm afraid I don't have much time today. My parents may be back soon." Yan Yi's slightly lost voice came. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and immediately apologized. "I'm sorry Yan Yi, there was indeed a temporary accident today, which delayed the time." Next time, I will invite you to my house. Really? Naruto, will you invite me to your house? Yanyi over there was suddenly pleasantly surprised. Yes. That's really great, Naruto, Yanyi said happily. Being able to be invited by Naruto to his house is enough to show that Naruto attaches great importance to himself, and that he can invite this girl to his home in a dignified manner. It was enough to show his seriousness. Then it's settled. We'll see you tomorrow. After the two chatted a few more words, Yanyi hurriedly hung up the phone. It seemed her parents had returned. At this time, in the world waiting for Naruto to finish the call, the expression on his face was a bit complicated and envious. It turned out that Naruto-kun and Yanyi have developed to such a good point. For some reason, she felt a little lost. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry, in order to accompany me, you sacrificed your time to accompany Yanyi. The world said faintly. Naruto shook his head and smiled. It's okay, the world needs me more now, of course I have to stay with you first. Chapter 418 Misunderstanding. Naruto-kun. The world looked at Naruto with a moved face, only to feel that a certain chord in his heart was plucked. Naruto-kun was too gentle and considerate to himself, and even refused to go to Yanyi in order to accompany him. Yanyi is his girlfriend. His thoughtfulness makes the world feel very complicated. Cheng is simply incomparable to him. Looking at Naruto's profile, a heart in the world could not help but quietly indulge. After finishing the dishes, the world finally had time to sit down beside Naruto and watch the TV in front of them together. Both of them held a cup of hot tea in their hands. They took a sip from time to time. They looked at each other and smiled, simple and warm. This feeling is really reassuring. The world silently felt the feeling of Naruto being beside him, and whispered in his heart. Unconsciously, leaning on Naruto's shoulder on the sofa, a head gently leaned over, nestled on his shoulder, and a pair of small hands also gently wrapped around Naruto's waist. Naruto turned his head slightly and glanced at the world, a little embarrassed, and wanted to push away, but the world had just been frightened, and now it was a time for urgent need of comfort, so after thinking for a while, he still did not stop the world's behavior, but stretched out. He gently hugged her thin and tender shoulders. Naruto-kun. Suddenly, the world watching TV called out to him. What's wrong? Can I ask you a question? The world raised his head and looked at him intently, with a slight expression on his face. He said, it's a bit of a personal question. Naruto was stunned. Yes. Did you and Yanyi ever do that kind of thing? The world hesitated for a while, but finally Wei said it with a sullen face. Naruto couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this, wondering why the world asked such a question, and couldn't help but be a little puzzled. This kind of thing, do you really want to know the world? Yes, no, I'm just asking casually. Naruto's question made her panic immediately. She sat up straight and explained, I'm just curious about this, listen. Saying that classmate Yi is not good at interacting with boys at all. Sorry Naruto-kun, isn't it bad for me to speak ill of her like that? The world is a little speechless. Because she didn't even know where she had the courage to ask Naruto this kind of question just now, but now she just felt a burning hot spot on her face, and she didn't dare to look up at him at all. Naruto laughed. The panic in the world made him feel a little funny, and said, actually, it's okay to tell you this kind of thing, Yanyi and I haven't done it yet. He secretly thought, if it wasn't for something unexpected happened to you, maybe you would have done it with Yanyi today. Of course, he wouldn't say that. It's just that the world couldn't help jumping in its heart when he heard it, and his face was surprised. It turns out that Naruto-kun and Yanyi haven't developed that kind of relationship. It seems that Naruto-kun is not the kind of boy who is purely dominated by lust. The world laughed. Naruto didn't expect the world's topic to be so bold, to say such sensitive words casually in front of him. Hey, Naruto-kun. What's the matter? The world suddenly stuck his head out, and Yuhi smiled and said, Naruto-kun, do you want me to do a special love training for you? I've read a lot of books on this subject, and there are a lot of them in school. A friend's love story reference, it will definitely help you. No way. What kind of special training method? Naruto asked. Well, that is, you treat me as classmate Yanyi, and then just do some of the things you usually do, or what you like. I said in the world period. When Naruto heard this, his heart skipped a beat. Is this called love training? This is not the temptation to eat fruit, is it a god horse? This. Naruto was embarrassed. Aha, of course, if you think this is not good, forget it, just let me talk nonsense. Seeing the look on Naruto's face, the world felt that it was too much. Why is it in Naruto-kun today? Can't control yourself like this all the time. Are you really in love with Naruto-kun? However, he clearly has a crush on Makoto Ito. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief, and secretly said in his heart, fortunately the world did not do something more tempting, otherwise he would have to be unbearable. Next, realizing that he had a strange world, he stopped saying strange requests, so the two continued to chat in the room for a while, and the doorbell finally rang. Ah, maybe my mother is back. The world whispered and hurried to the door. The door of the house was opened, and a middle-aged woman walked in. Seeing the world smiled and said hello, and then suddenly saw Naruto sitting in the living room, she couldn't help being stunned. World, who is this? Ah, he is my classmate. The world hurriedly explained. World, you actually brought all your classmates home. I don't even know about this. World's mother smiled ambiguous. He won't be yours. That one. Mom, why are you doing this? Yuhi's face was so anxious that the world looked extremely embarrassed, but for some reason there was a hint of joy in his heart, and his eyes secretly looked at Naruto. At this time, Naruto had already stood up and came to the world and her mother. With a faint smile on his face, he first said hello to the world's mother, and then said goodbye. In this case, I will go back first. World, with your aunt at home, shouldn't you worry anymore? Yeah, the world nodded lightly, watching him thank him again. Thank you so much, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled and left. Closing the door, the world's mother looked at the world with a smile on her face. World. This boy was not bad just now. He looks handsome and smiles so charmingly. To be honest, is he really your classmate? Well, of course it is. Mom, don't think about it. Seeing the ambiguous smile on her mother's face, the world couldn't take it anymore, and Yuhi's face became Yuhi. I think it's more than that. World. It's true, mother. How long have you been developing? The world mother ignored her pinch and pushed her with a smile. It's really not what you think it is. You didn't do H's thing just now, did you? You were really young. Chapter 419 Playoff. Yanyi's house. Yanyi was sitting on the bed, holding the phone and sighing slightly. At this moment, the door of the room was opened, and Yanyi's sister Gui Xin broke in. Sister, what are you doing at home all day today? I went out to play with my classmates today. It was a great time. Gui Xin said with a smile. Yuhi on Yanyi's face, her sister Gui Xin was going to take her out to play, but she definitely did not agree because she had to wait for Naruto to come, but she waited at home for a day in vain, although she knew that Naruto must have something things, but she still has some resentment in her heart. Seeing the happy smile on her sister's face, Yanyi said with a slight smile, Heart, you're not going out with the boy you like, are you? No way, it's all girls who go with me. Let's sing, dance, and go shopping together, how can there be boys? Shin shook his head and laughed. Sister, let's do it. Next time, let brother Naruto take us out. Have fun. What do you think, sister? Do you want Naruto to play with us? Yanyi was stunned. Yeah, sister, I really want to meet him. Gui Xin said coquettishly in her arms. The school bell rang, and it was finally time to eat. A large group of girls immediately gathered around Naruto, and they invited him attentively. From time to time, they extended the lunches they brought to him. Everyone had a smile of enthusiasm and expectation on their faces. This time Naruto's exam results are the first in the whole grade, and the physical exam is also at the top level. This suddenly turned him from a degenerate and bad student to a top genius student. The classmates who used to keep him at a distance are now rushing towards him. He showed his favor, and the girls launched a frantic pursuit of him. At school, Naruto's reputation grew. Because of his sunny smile and his friendly attitude, there is such a nickname among the students, Golden Little Sun. However, this change also made Naruto extremely distressed. Every time he had a meal, many girls would come over and hand him a bento. Every time the get out of class was over, many students would come to ask him some practice questions, especially some girls, always inadvertently conduct seductive behavior. Distressed. This is Naruto's feeling for the past 2 days. At this time, seeing Naruto being a little bit unbearable by a group of girls, the world walked over to him with a smile, and at the same time took out the bento in his hand. Naruto-kun, this is the bento I made, let's go to the rooftop and try it. Naruto was stunned, seeing the exquisite bento box in Shiji's hand. He couldn't help but smiled and nodded, followed Shiji out of the classroom. The other girls were heartbroken. I can't be reconciled. Why did Naruto-kun promise the world? Yeah, I'm not bad. Damn it, I have to be more violent next time. After sighing for a while, everyone could only leave for dinner. Only Makoto Ito and Taisuke Ziyang were left in the classroom. They looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly and sighed. Naruto is really in the limelight now. I didn't expect that he has always been secretive, pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger, said Taisuke Ziyang. Ito Makoto lowered his head, his face full of unwillingness. Suddenly, he raised his head, as if thinking of something, and said, I found out that the world is very enthusiastic about Naruto in the past 2 days. Do you think she plans to pursue Naruto? Huh, you mean the world? Yeah, she even gave him a bento just now. Isn't this something only couples do? Makoto Ito doubted. Perhaps she really likes Naruto in the world. Really? Taisuke Ziyang pondered for a while, then said, if you want me to say that the world is still very good, she used to be very close to you, but I always thought that you would be together, and now even she likes Naruto. Is that guy? Damn it. When Ito Makoto heard the words, his body couldn't help shaking. Thinking about it now, the world is actually really good. Compared with Yan Yi, she may not have such a good family background and a well-developed body, but she is lively, cheerful, and full of youthful vigor. A very good girlfriend candidate. Thinking of this, Makoto Ito can't help but feel a little regretful. He should have paid more attention to the world before he knew it. But it's too late, Ito Makoto thought. However, another thought suddenly flashed in his mind, and there was hope in his heart. If the world really wants to chase Naruto, what will Yan Yi do? She is now Naruto's girlfriend. If she is told that Naruto has a close relationship with the world, will she be sad and disappointed? Don't you have a chance then? Thinking about it, Makoto Ito couldn't help giggling. Ziyang Taisuke looked at him strangely. Sincerely, what are you laughing at? Taisuke, I suddenly thought of a very good way. Maybe I can succeed in pursuing Yan Yi. Huh, are you telling the truth? You have a way. At this time, the world is sitting on the rooftop with Naruto, chatting while eating the bento made by the world. World, your cooking is very good. Naruto ate half of it and exclaimed sincerely. With Naruto's praise, the world has a happy smile on its face. Naruto-kun, if you like it, I can make 10 for you in the future. The world blinked. Naruto smiled faintly. At this time, Makoto Ito and Taisuke Ziyang had already arrived outside Yan Yi's classroom, and he was in a panic and walked towards Yan Yi, who was sitting in the corner of the classroom. Student Yan Yi, are you free? I have something to tell you. Yan Yi was slightly taken aback. Seeing the person who had confessed to her before but was rejected, she was surprised. To be honest, she didn't want to meet Makoto Ito again, and last time Naruto also warned him not to harass her again. Thinking of him coming again this time, I wonder if he still hasn't let go of his original thoughts. Thinking of this, Yan Yi shook his head reservedly and said, Ito-kun. I'm a little busy right now, maybe I don't have time. Ito Makoto, who was rejected, didn't give up, bit Kiba and said, actually, this incident has something to do with Naruto. Yan Yi was shocked. Ito-kun, what the hell is going on? Chapter 420 Yan Yi is jealous. On the rooftop, Naruto was eating lunch with the world. Occasionally, looking down at the scenery of the campus from the rooftop, both of them felt relieved. Naruto-kun, you and Yan Yi must have a good relationship now, right? The world suddenly asked. Yeah, not bad. Hey, Naruto-kun, why did you come to rescue me that day? In fact, the police could have rescued me. The world asked again. Naruto smiled slightly, because we are friends. Just a friend. The world heard the words, and suddenly leaned towards Naruto, raised his head and looked at him quietly. A strange look flashed in his eyes. Naruto touched his nose awkwardly. Does the world think of itself? Puff. Suddenly, a chuckle sounded, and seeing his embarrassed appearance, the world burst out laughing. Naruto-kun, don't worry, I just said it casually. Hee, Naruto-kun, it seems that you care about classmate Yanye. The world said with a smile, and then sighed softly. Sometimes I really envy classmate Yanye. She can become Naruto-kun's girlfriend, must be very happy and happy. Naruto smiled slightly. At this moment, a figure not far from the rooftop was looking at the two of them from a distance. It is Yan Yi. Behind Yan Yi, Makoto Ito looked at the two people not far away with a smile, and said lightly, the world is on good terms with Naruto now. Don't you care at all? Yan Yi frowned slightly, looked back at Makoto Ito, and said faintly, I can't stop Naruto from making friends, and it's normal. Really? But why do you look a little unhappy now? Makoto Ito said. Yan Yi shook his head, a little insincere. I'm not unhappy, the world's popularity is so good, it's a matter of course to make friends with Naruto. But it's not you who is eating with Naruto now, Yan Yi. Yan Yi's body trembled slightly. Makoto Ito continued. Also, everyone in our class now knows that the world is very close to Naruto. As his girlfriend, don't you think Naruto has given you too little time? Don't say it, Ito-kun, Yan Yi suddenly shouted. I will handle my affairs myself, so you don't need to worry about these things. Makoto Ito was stunned for a moment, seeing Yan Yi rejecting him like this. His eyes showed deep disappointment, but seeing her excited look gave him confidence again. At least, he managed to make a gap between her and Naruto. Okay, Yan Yi, I won't interfere with you and Naruto, but I really don't want you to be hurt. Please remember that I will always love you, even if you never look directly at me. After Ito Makoto finished speaking, he left immediately. Yan Yi didn't hear Makoto Ito's words at all. She walked directly to Naruto and slowly walked over. At this time, Taisuke Zeong found Makoto Ito, who had left the rooftop, and asked with a smile, Makoto, what's the matter? Is Yan Yi disappointed with Naruto? Ito Makoto smiled and exclaimed a little excitedly, it seems so. This way I have another chance. Haha, yes, when the time comes to grab Yan Yi, Naruto will no longer be able to be arrogant. Naruto, Yan Yi, who suddenly came to Naruto and the world who were chatting, shouted at Naruto. Naruto turned his head and saw that it was Yan Yi. Not knowing that she had been provoked by Ito Makoto before, he stood up and said with a smile, Yan Yi, why are you here? Are you finished eating? I'm done eating. It was Ito-kun who told me you were here, Naruto. Yan Yi said quietly, didn't Naruto eat with me today? The world on the side was stunned for a moment, and then an embarrassed look appeared on his face, and he felt that the bento in his hand was a little hot. It seems that he invited Naruto to eat lunch, which troubled Yan Yi. But, what happened to Ito-kun? Naruto was also stunned, looking at her serious face, and then smiled again. Yan Yi, I'm sorry, I was invited by the world to eat with her today, will I eat with you next time? This time it was Yan Yi's turn to be stunned. She thought Naruto would falter with his explanation or try to cover it up, but he didn't expect him to be so calm. Careful look. The world frowned slightly, and suddenly she asked Yanyi. Yanyi classmate, are you saying that Ito-kun asked you to come here just now? Yanyi nodded and said in a low tone, yes, classmates from the world, it's obviously my girlfriend's business to give Naruto bento. Hateful, Makoto Ito this bastard. The world cursed inwardly, isn't this deliberately embarrassing itself? Hearing Yanyi's jealous tone, she felt sorry but also a little sad. Why could she question herself so confidently? Just asking Naruto to eat lunch, is it really wrong? Naruto, who was on the side, had already felt the tension between the two women. He stepped forward and took Yanyi's hand and the world's hand, and said with a slight smile, what are you two doing? Can't we just eat together next time? The two girls were dumbfounded. Naruto, this seems a little inappropriate, Yanyi said with a glance at the world. Naruto patted her on the shoulder. It's okay, you are my girlfriend, and the world is also my good friend. It's not strange to eat together. It seems reasonable. Yanyi and the world were stunned. Immediately Yanyi shook his head vigorously. Not such Naruto. I mean, wouldn't it be more romantic for couples to eat alone? If the world classmates were there, there would be no atmosphere. The world is a little depressing. In front of Yanyi, Naruto's regular girlfriend, he is completely redundant. She could not help but sigh slightly. However, the more this is the case, the more unwilling the world is. However, no matter what she did, Yanyi was already Naruto's girlfriend. Wouldn't she become a third party if she joined in? For a time, the world was complicated. Naruto-kun, since classmate Yanyi is here, I won't bother you anymore, let's go back first. Depressed, she said goodbye to Naruto and left here. Yanyi breathed a sigh of relief, stepped forward and hugged Naruto's arm. Naruto, I'll make you a bento tomorrow, will you eat with me?